got you, son.
Yo, what's up? It's Jason, the God MC, better known as Elm Street. We out here in Africa, plain old Egypt, about to open the stargates. You already know everything is atoms, photons, neurons, electrons. So we're gonna turn around right here, and we're gonna show you the great pyramid. That's the Great Pyramid. I'm the Great Pyramid. You're the Great Pyramid. Yeah, we're living it up. Shout outs to Toronto, US, Africa. We out here.
Welcome to the Matrix University Virtual Reality Campus. We're currently at the International Space Station, covering planet Earth. This is one of our modules here. All aboard! It is time to hop aboard my spaceship, because you are now tuned into what is the Matrix TV. I am your host, Jason Elm Street Williams, Master of the Universe, and let's get into it. But first, let me introduce my special guest, JoJo the Great.
Man, how you doing, Brother Jay? I love every time I hear that.
Brother JoJo.
Great. I can hear it replaying in my head, man. What's up? Talk to me.
Doing great, brother. So right here, let's get straight into it. We see the Trump inauguration has arrived. So what are your thoughts, Brother JoJo, on the Trump inauguration the same day as Martin Luther King's holiday?
You know, I really appreciate that question, man, because that's such a field question. I think it's real interesting how America and the first foundings and how America was even founded. And today, as we start to inaugurate our new president with everything that comes with him, it is on the same day as that. So that just tells you where the media's attention is. So what are we talking about today as far as the inauguration and stuff like that? Brother Jason, bring me up to date so I know what we're doing.
Well, we just wanted to get into it. You know, right now I wanted to talk about the sellout Negroes that we are seeing all over TV. And then today, before we even get into the inauguration, let's talk about the U.S. President Joe Biden pardoning Marcus Garvey today. What is that about? Members of Congress urged Biden to posthumously exonerate Marcus Garvey's 1923 conviction following recent pardons. Why do you think that the government pardoned Marcus Garvey?
I think they're trying to buy some forgiveness points, man. It's about to be a really, really interesting year, Brother Jason, just with all the things that are going on, the NAACP, and with all of the African-American support. I mean, dude, this inauguration really, really brought out the real America. And as far as the sellouts, I mean, man, you know, if we're going to get back deep on that, well, let's talk about when did this sellout even begin? Because this isn't the first time we've demonstrated the idea of selling out. How did the slave Atlantic trade happen? How did we treat our slaves in Egypt? You know, I mean, there's so many topics. Did I miss the Black Pharaoh? Why do you think?
No, that's a great starting point. You know, I say let's start current. You know, right now, you know, they're using so-called Black celebrities again. So our gatekeepers, the slave master's favorite, like in this picture we have of Samuel L. Jackson in the Django. That's Snoop Dogg. That's Nelly. That's Soulja Boy. That's Rick Ross. It was so disgusting when I was looking at the Snoop Dogg performance, brother. When I was looking at Rick Ross rapping about dope and killing in front of all these so-called Europeans, man.
How did that make us look, man? With every single law they trying to bring up, with all of that, tell me that isn't fucking crazy, man.
Exactly.
You have and it's crazy. Hold on, let's talk about that. The representation, man, from Al Sharpton, from all these other sellouts, from these people who they bring us our attention and they bait us into getting into the vaccines. And that
Yeah.
movie with Samuel Jackson was so great because what happens when Rick Ross, when all of those people's master dies, like he did in the movie Django? They're gonna be crying, talking about bring him back,
Mm,
Master. No, Master, no. Listen, look at that. Look at that picture.
look at
Silence.
silence, because they
I'm
silenced
telling you,
Muhammad
man.
Ali. That wasn't from just punching. You know, they said no, they gave him the jab. They said after he got that vaccine, that's when his problems, all that started going. So even Easy E, we see the picture with Easy E. He was the first one to tell people, hey man, this Jew is stealing all of our effing money. And who went with the Jew? And who's still successful today?
NWA, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, all of them, man. I'm
There you
telling
go.
you, and the wildest part is the panel doesn't know this, but earlier today, guys, me and Jason were talking about secular music. For those of you who do not know what secular music is like drugs, fuck women, bitches, all that other stuff. That's considered secular music. Gospel is singing about God. Rock and roll is singing about drugs and drinking baby blood. You know, all that good stuff. So at the time when we had those, that was our representation as far as what America had thought of us. When we
Mm,
had who was that? Magic Johnson. That
yeah.
is another one who we continuously are watching, that they bait in these influential people to get us to continuously be blindsided and what's the word? Manipulated, bringing us into their matrix so that we can never escape. Tupac. Oh yeah, bring that picture back. Look at all of them. Tupac.
Which one?
Um,
Hip hop versus the cops are
hey, what was that? But real quick, let's talk about the sellout Negro, because again on the panel, no one really knew this, but me and Jason were talking, and I was saying, but it's unfortunate that the black narrative has two sides of it, man. Uh, in
yes, man.
Egypt, what's up, boss?
No, go. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, master. Are we sick? Is we sick? Is we
Yeah,
sick, Master Trump?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. We is Master Trump. But back then, me and Jason were talking about, and I said, black people have participated in being sellout Negroes for a long duration of time. Just the slave Atlantic trade alone was solely responsible for us. Black people were responsible for that. So when we pick up that narrative and say that the whites did this and did this, that's not true. When you say that black people only were enslaved by white people, that's not true either. We participated in these sellout things for a long duration of time. And what you're seeing in the inauguration is just proof and evident that it's still a problem that we're battling and facing with. Like Tupac, Rick Ross, all them singing about that secular music. If that's our representation, then how are we ever supposed to move away from the plantation? Look at that picture right there, that bottom left corner. That right there is how black people view the industry. The music industry, as far as our representation, we're attached to it, just like Samuel was to Leo DiCaprio. Look at how attached that man is. He said, Master, don't you ever leave me. Shit's fucked up, man. What you think, Jay?
I totally agree. It's really in the black community at this point. It's really us letting go of our Snoop Dogs, of our Jay-Z's, of these entertainers who have the majority of influence amongst the youth and now as adults. How did a Crip from Long Beach become a leader and spokesman for black people? And not only that, was a pimp, a gangbanger, promoted the gin and juice, promoted the weed, used to have women walking around on dog leashes. How did a gangbanger come to represent the Olympics? And now with the fall of Diddy, all of a sudden he's on cell phone commercials. Snoop has his own TV shows, even more. It lets us know what Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali said, is that we know we have a problem, and we know that the government wants to have the entertainers as the leaders for the Black community. Nowhere in the white community, Asian community, Mexican community, or Hindu community do you see their leaders, comedians, actors, musicians. So therefore, to the perception of the world, the Black people in America are still enslaved, and their representative is Snoop Dogg. And
Hey, hold on. Let's talk about the optional form of this slavery you're talking about. And more importantly, I got a question for the panel because I know what channel I'm on today. What is the Matrix University? Well, let me educate you folks. The Matrix is exactly what we're talking about right now. It's a place, it's a system, it's an institutionalized format designed for you only to follow within the narrative. You have these Uncle Toms. We'll talk about the meaning of Uncle Tom later, but you have these people who are literally taking the money and taking the endorsements of the emancipation of Black people, as far as Snoop Dogg and all that. Doesn't that just ring any bells? Like slavery, as far as right now, you guys, we have smartphones and we can take ourselves anywhere. But how much of us are really educated on all these pictures that Brother Jason is showing us right now?
bamboozled. So basically they called it the minstrel show, y'all, to where so-called white actors and Black actors too, they would dress up in black paint to mimic us. So the first theater in America, it would show so-called white men dressing up as black face with red lipstick, and you would dance, oh yes, master, da 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 da. And then the first person with the job in this country for a Black man was a preacher. So right there, the first gatekeeper, the first person who was allowed to read was the person who was enslaving you. Because the person teaching you to worship Jesus, telling you to worship God, which is a word, you know what I'm saying? These are part of the enslavement. So when you have Snoop Dogg, the jigaboo dancer, talking about bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks, murder on a cop, killing another brother, gang banging, and then able to push this agenda worldwide using media, using a Jewish-owned entity, which we know are the record labels, who fund these low, degenerate, Black, ignorant people from our community.
Black exploitations.
There you go. And this is where it started. It's the minstrel show. So you guys need to watch the movie with Spike Lee. It's cringe worthy. It's so cringe, but you have to watch it. It's called Bamboozled. And it basically shows you what they're doing in the industry. So when you hear them say, oh, Denzel didn't do that, Dr. Dre didn't do that, what did Eazy-E say about Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre?
Hey, real quick, Brother Jason, what year during the inauguration, or if I may be incorrect, was Cardi B a part of the presidential she spoke? When was that, you guys?
That was Biden, or was that did she do it for Kamala too?
I don't really recall. However, I'm bringing that up because on the topic he's talking about, by using the Black exploitation, does anyone on the panel know who Sarah Barnett is? Sarah Barnett was that Black lady from the Khoikhoi tribe, had such a fat ass. They chopped her ass in half, her thighs in half, and they put that fat ass inside of a glass cage, filled it with formaldehyde so it wouldn't rot, and people would walk by and they would just be looking, saying, what a freak, what a freak, what a freak. And that to this day still is our representation on TV. The more we started to push that narrative, and we had people, definitely during the presidential, it's like the government is telling you guys right in your friends, in front of your face, we still promote these ideas. And the problem with slavery, as far as it being an optional thing, is Black folks, we have the option just to turn away and say we're not going to consume. No one's beating you to consume. Am I lying?
No, but what happens is imagine an animal in the zoo, You know, when they release, they can't really, a lot of animals, they can't even release into the wild because the other animals will eat them and tear them up, or they simply have no skills. So that lets you know right there that even the animals get thrown off when put into captivity. And that's the same with us, like the so-called Harriet Tubman quote, I could have freed more slaves if they only knew they were slaves. And that's why they try to cut off shows like this, leaders such as myself and you, is because when people have an option locally, you know, that's the main thing, is that they distributed these low-life degenerates worldwide, city to city, house to house, not through just CD, but TV. And that fights against brothers such as myself from being heard. Because when you have 1 million black men trying to be like Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg versus trying to be like Malcolm X or Dr. King, it gets erased. So what did Dr. Dre say in his first song with Snoop, Let Me Ride, in which they sampled this? Shows you how wicked their magic is. You know, that song Let Me Ride,
How did it go?
it sampled George Clinton in the parliament talking about spaceships. Let me ride, swing low, sweet chariot, then someone let me ride. So they replaced that talking about spaceships to lowriders, but Dr. Dre said, no more black fists, no more black medallions, just that gangster shit with that gangster rap, that same old whoopty whoop that makes it gangster slaps. Word to the motherfucking streets. And so right there, you guys listen to that song with Dr. Dre, Let Me Ride. And he basically said in that song, there's no more black consciousness, no more black medallions and all that. It's going to be strictly gangster stuff. So right there, Dr. Dre was a government agent, and that's what Eazy-E was saying. Eazy-E was telling the world that Dr. Dre was a homosexual, and so was Snoop Dogg, and that Snoop Dogg was Dr. Dre's bedroom buddy in secret, and that they were government agents, and that they were studio gangsters.
Like that, Jay. How do we move forward as far as like, because mind you, for there to be a construction for black people, there has to be a deconstruction on the habits that we picked up throughout the years. So other than just avenues and outlets like the Matrix University, as far as, you know, everyone on the panel, how do we really construct, or how do we encourage people to grow outside of that secular train of thought or that poverty driven type of lifestyle when the majority of people live like that? How do we do it?
Well, I know we said try not to use an example of this platform, but it's self-education. You know, for me, I've come to the point to where I'm building this platform, my university, my nonprofit, my business, for everyone, but truly it's for those who, example, you build a basketball gym for people who play basketball, correct? Not
yes, sir.
So it's just up to us as leaders to build organizations for the mind, for innovation, for metaphysics, for spirituality, financing. Like you are the founder of the OSS. So you're talking about, you're a founder of a financial fraternity that gives and provides knowledge and information to build wealth in present time and generational. But for me, the picture's right here. We have to begin to not praise, but worship, or not even worship, admire, you know, our elders again, our gods again. For me, the gods are the Farrakhan's, the Elijah Muhammad's, and not to say that each of these deities or gods don't have faults. Because even for those who follow the Bible, you can clearly read in the Bible and say, man, there's some things that you would say that so-called God might have been irrational, or you would have not done that. So we have to start studying ourselves, but really our leaders. So instead of looking to Donald Trump, look to Elijah Muhammad. What was Elijah Muhammad saying in the 1920s? They were saying the same exact thing. The problem is that there are we shouldn't say there's no more Elijahs, but we are going up against the Snoop Dogs. We're going up against the Dr. Dre's. So what can we do? We have to have these conversations. You have to be brave. At the end of the day, you're going to have to be brave. Are you going to be a god or a slave? A god or a gangster? Because that's what NWA introduced. Niggers with attitude. When on the East Coast, they were saying, peace, God. What's up, son? You know what I'm saying? Peace, God. But it was Dr. Dre and his minions that brought in the fuck the police, fuck the police. But what was the solution behind that?
There never was one. It just created, it's like that fear mongering. And it's wonderful you say that, man, as far as what was the solution. Prior to what you were saying was that, you know, you guys on the panel, you guys got to take a big mind that there's going to be a lot of hard-headed people look just like you. But it's like they say, your skin folk is not always your kinfolk. You look at them people, man, and there's going to be a lot of hard-headedness. A lot of people who now would agree with you freeing yourself from the emancipation of the matrix that all of us are trapped inside of. I think that's a really, really important little notion to say, because to break outside of these ideas and the respect and the, oh, but look what Dre's done for the community, and oh, look what the what you guys, there's two parts of the Black narrative, and we were not always gangsters. We were Moors before that, and before we were Moors, we were something even greater. What if I told you that Moors was just the introduction and your guys' truth? Before that, there was even more powerful people who taught them how to be as immaculate and as beautiful as they were. It's a lie, you guys. You guys are being fucking lied to.
And there you go. I definitely agree. You know, at this stage in the game, they're celebrating Big Meech, dog. You know, so basically,
what did Big Meech do for us? I forget. Wasn't he the cocaine guy?
They pardon him. Why do these presidents pardon all these drug dealers all the time? It's because they worked for the government. He worked for the fucking government. You know, you can't sell that amount of fucking cocaine and drugs for years and they don't fucking know. They said Rick Ross was a correctional officer and he's over here rapping about drugs to a room full of fucking racist white people. How embarrassing and disgusting is that? So it lets you know that Snoop Dogg is a government informant. And he always has been. Suge Knight said it. Eazy-E said it. Tupac Shakur said it. Tupac said Dr. Dre was gay. So let's go into Tupac. The FBI war on Tupac Shakur. So,
you know, hey, hold on. If we're talking about Tupac, yeah, I always, because I had paid some quality attention to him, because you know it's fascinating. Every time we talk about hip hop, we always talk about Tupac and Tupac, Biggie, and it's always going to be in those little demographics.
blood sacrifice.
How did this college graduate, this educated person who practiced in theater, literally an actor somehow became this gangster rapper who's talking about the beginning of secular rap? Mind you, not all his music was bad, like Dear Mama, those songs like that in da 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 da. But as far as what was the solution to that, that man really wasn't like that. He didn't have problems like he had with Suge Knight. That fool was a nerdy dude. Go watch the old videos of him, man. Look how he smiled. Look how he dressed. Look how he talked. He wasn't no gangster. That was just all an act. But the question is, who told you to act like that? And what did that really do?
It was a government psyop. When we look at even his mom and the CIA and connections, and then his godmother, I have a slide on one of the other ones talking about Assata Shakur, you know. So you're absolutely correct. And that's why I always say, did Tupac Shakur fake his death, and was that his stunt double in that car, regardless of what everyone else was playing into it? Because how did someone who went to, I don't know if it was LaGuardia, but you went to the same acting school with Jada Pinkett. You knew the Wayans brothers and all these people. Yeah, brother. So I remember watching the documentaries growing up, and he said that was part of his plan, that he was doing that to get the thugs, to get the gangsters. And his last album, which was with Death Row, and he named it Machiavelli because Tupac, he was leaving Tupac. He was leaving, I guess, that persona in Machiavelli, faking his death. And so I believe it was called Euthanasia, was the name of his record label. It was called Euthanasia, and it was going to be all about uniting the gangs. So his purpose, supposedly with the thug and all that, it was an act because he knew that if it was like me just trying to tell people you couldn't, so what did I have to do? I had to build with the gods on the east side. I had to deal with the killers, the gangbangers, the thugs. You can ask anybody. People be like, why in the hell is Jason over there in the hood? Where was I going to go? Where was I going to go? The black kids in the
Build that
suburbs,
credibility.
and the black kids in the suburbs were already whitewashed. They wanted to work for the white man. But thank the gods and goddesses that my dad, Vietnam vetted, instilled enough knowledge in me to understand the importance of me knowing where I came from and not forgetting my people. So when it comes to
education alone, Jason.
So basically with Tupac, he did doing what I had to do. Just like Malcolm, you had to stand on your soapbox. So I had to go. So with my tour van, I went to the most treacherous hoods in Los Angeles. Ask anybody by myself, because the brothers in my city who gangbang, they were scared to go. But I would pull up. I won't start naming all the gangs out loud, but literally I would name all the hoods, Martin Luther King boulevards and all those in every city. And I come out kicking the word, kicking the knowledge, and never really had any problems. So basically you have to be a god again. We're going to have to go to physical CD copies again, creating books again, writing physical things. That's just what it is. You have to separate from being a god from a human. And with that, do you want to be immortal, or when you die in the flesh, do you want to just die?
So let me ask you something real quick, because I know a lot of people on the panel, they're wondering right now, if you're not necessarily of that status, you're not of that stature, you're not necessarily in the the entertainment industry and stuff like that. What's your advice for the panel on how you can avoid being a sellout Negro?
Knowledge, I always say, I not revert to it, but knowledge of self, studying your ancestors. For me, I look at it like this personally. Don't do anything you wouldn't do in front of God or Allah or your dead grandfather. Look at it like that. When you die, just because, let's say you took a position that's $100,000, but you know that that position doesn't feed you morally, that it's just all about money, but you have all these fancy houses and cars, you have your family based off of money that is basically soulless. So therefore, when you pass away, you don't graduate. You either have to come back or you're stuck here, versus someone who dedicated their life to not only their passion, but doing something that had soul in it. That's what we have to start doing. Do something that has soul in it. And yes, I know we all have to pay our bills, but the moment we start doing that, you're going to have to build a community, just like you and I are doing, linking our nonprofits together, having these conversations. So 1 + 1 = 2, and then 2 + 2 is 4. And then we have 2 + 2, and now we have 10 brothers and then 10 sisters. That's 20 of us who are building with the OSS. So now we're building financial institutions. We're doing crowdfunding between us, just like the Jews, the Asians, and the Hindus do. Like when they live, when you see them living 10 people in a house, that's crowdfunding. That's them saving their bread together for a mission to further their people. So we have to stop looking at each other as individuals. So people love saying God is good to me. Oh, God gave me a house. God gave me this. God gave me that. But did God give you guys each other? God hasn't given you a black community. There's a church on every corner. You guys have nothing. You do not own anything. You are enslaved as a people. So whatever God as so-called black people you are worshiping, that God does not serve you. Jesus does not serve you as a collective. It's an individual God, because you have to study pre-Christ, BC, before Christ, before the modern Christian era. What were you doing? What were you doing prior to Christianity being forced upon you? What were your ancestors doing as far as building actual structures? Then we can start building with that. You know, we have to look forward to the past so we can live in the present. So we have to know, what were we doing before we believed in Jesus? What were we doing before Suge Knight, The Game, Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Kanye? Hip hop was a CIA government project, because my dad taught me this. You know, back in the day, people thought my dad played for the NBA, right? With our house, and when he go to the gym, he wouldn't miss shots, and people be like, dog, no, your dad had to play in college. And my dad was like, yeah, back then, many of us could have played in the NBA. But he said, I couldn't have told my dad, I want to be a basketball player. And looked at me like, what? Like, it wasn't cool. So up until the Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan era, a lot of those brothers worked a 9 to 5. They weren't making millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So being an NBA player, NFL player wasn't an option for black men 60 years ago. Just as with my father, being a rapper was not part of a conversation of him growing up, versus today, from elementary to now, you have friends and you're in a society with black people whose dream is to be a rapper, and their image to be a rapper are all those sellouts. And
Hey,
they
real quick. You
okay.
know, on the last episode, you guys, we were talking about, or I had brought it up. I said, you know, we always talk about the enslavement of Africans. We always talk about the enslavement of black people, but white people were enslaved at that time too, when they started dismissing their true heritage and starting to incorporate into this new white superiority complex. So
Facts.
as we continue on to want to be like rappers and things like that, we diminish where we really come from. So as Jason was saying, you have to look past for you to look forward. We continuously have been in this ongoing rage to where it's like we're trying to incorporate ourselves into these societies that are not designed for us. On the last panel, if you guys were there, we're talking about fitting into a white society that is not necessarily designed for you. It's not. It left more damage than it has even built you up. That's the half part of the slave Atlantic trade. There was something prior to that, like Jay was talking.
I'm listening.
Oh, my bad. Someone was coming in the room. Anywho, so on as you were talking about, um, you know, moving on from these guys that don't worship you and stuff like that. If you guys actually look back before that, and you guys go look at just on the video right now. I'm trying to remember the name of the dance. It's when they make the bush dance. Do you remember what that bush is called, Brother Jason?
No.
Damn, what's it called? Anywho, it's a dancing bush. In Africa, they play these drums, and I'm gonna send the video to you, Jason, because it's beautiful. They'll
Oh, I know. Go ahead.
So they'll dress it up, nothing inside of that. When we were practicing that stuff, we were more strong. But the second that the slave Atlantic came in and they started pushing Christianity and these new gods down your throats, you guys lost your sovereignty to be able to perform these miracles. Whenever have you been able to make something move through the name of Jesus? I'm waiting. And we've become so conditioned that if I were to tell you go back and get initiated to the Zulu tribe, if I told you to go get
Yes.
initiated into the Voodoo tribe, you would be turning away from it because in our enslavement, we have told that that is demonic. So the more that we demonize our own culture, the more that you're running away from your own freedom. It's literally like they set up a system for the more you think you're doing good, the worser you're off in the long end. You're thinking, I'll get punished for this voodoo. I'll get punished for this hoodoo. I'll get punished for this. God gave you all of the truths. We had everything. We taught the Europeans how to bathe, how to pray, how to write, how to read, how to do math. They didn't have electricity without us. They didn't have phones without us. They didn't have a functioning society. Matter of fact, they didn't even know the currency until someone taught them, that someone studied the waters and they learned the money system like that. So if you really think about it, the more you become more educated on your past and where you come, you'll find out the more enslaved you are. They say when you are freed from slavery, you become happy and free. Nah, you just get more pissed off. You be like,
Yeah.
what?
Well,
What? You sound
that's
like DMX. What?
that's the
What?
whole point. To you're gonna have to go through the hell. Most people are afraid to go through hell once they drop their programming that we got in church, media, and K through 12 school system. But right here, we see exactly what you're saying, JoJo. All their great leaders study on what today is known as the continent of Africa. So what they did is they demonized you becoming more intelligent. They demonize you, what I say becoming God, meaning the highest, most intelligent being you can be, the most high intelligent being, the Tahuti, the thought, the priesthood of Anu, where we were able to embalm and fluid, where we were able to build massive structures, where we were able to create machines that melted and molded rock, and all those different things we did, and it's still inside of us. But when we worship, like JoJo said, these outside gods, and we're introduced to these new gods, it stripped us of our superpowers. It stripped us of us studying our ancient superheroes. So just like you press play to watch Superman or all these other superheroes, we're supposed to be able to open a book or a tablet and see our superheroes and learn their formulas on how they not just built pyramids, but created a curriculum on chemistry, science, math, gardening, and farming. Because basically they stripped you of knowledge on how to be God, meaning self-sufficient, meaning wherever you went on this infinite plane of existence, as long as you had knowledge of self and you could look up to the stars, you could navigate. As long as you had seeds, you could grow crops because you knew how the stars and the planet and everything of the seasons work. So you could feed yourself, you could feed your people, you could create fire, electricity, and harness it. You could send out electrical signals by building a mound, getting copper, and letting people know where you are. You could talk to an animal and it come and say, send this signal, send this message to this person across the ocean. So in their education system and within their church and religions, it stripped us of being God. And so when they gave you white Jesus, it now stripped you of an example of a so-called black man being God, and
And
only
it's
the
crazy.
white
Hold on.
God.
Hold on. And it's so beautiful too, man, because it was the perfect weapon. They made it to where literally the more you get educated, do you ever notice, and mind you, I work in the school system. Jason, have you ever noticed how these black kids, they have these talents, but somewhere in them they're designed to simmer those talents with the solution that I'm not going to be in trouble. I'm not going to be
Yes,
ostracized. I'm not going to
yes.
get picked on. So the more that they push down those ideas, and this idea with your conceptual God that you have to be accepted, mind you, if it's a white Jesus and the white narrative says that by nature they hate you because of whatever, how will you ever truly get accepted there?
You won't. And it's exactly what you said. This society that they built is built to, it's built based off of our ignorance. So it shuts down the moment enough of us want to be God again. but there's discipline. Just like in order for you to make the basketball team, you have to have discipline. In order for someone to make it from varsity to the college level, you have to have discipline. In order to be in the NFL, discipline. Then ask your friends who are in the NFL, they'll say it's faster than college, and then you got to be the elite. It's the same thing in life. We have to want to be that again, you know. So when we look at these images of these so-called black pharaohs, Murs, and Moors, we see ourselves. We see an image that predates Yeshua or Jesus, and then you can identify it just like people identify with Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, and all these other sellouts. Now we can identify with brothers and sisters. We weren't there to see how maybe they acted, because we know that we'll always say that people will be able to point out anyone's flaws, but what did they leave us? What infinite amount of food did they leave us through literature, through science that we can study? So although we might not know these people personally, we can look at a statue and say, wow, one, that's a brother. Two, look at the headdress. That looks similar to what?
A fez.
So that lets us know that before the word more and all this stuff, we can research myrrh and all these tones and sounds and hieroglyphs and see that the priesthood, which are simply the teachers and educators. So when the European says priesthood, they simply mean the most advanced, intelligent people.
Hold on, Jason.
Okay.
My bad. So basically, hold on, because I got to shorten this down, because I love how Jason's always on fire, but I'm finna do one of them little bro things where it'd be like, what he really saying is, see, there's two sides of the black narrative. The slave Atlantic trade, as far as what you're hearing on these sellouts as he's talking about, your Jay-Z's, your secular musics, that is a new thing. That is a fucking new belief. Before they took your history, before they gave you all of these pictures you're looking at right here, see, that's what you got in the now, and that's what your mind is focused on. But past tense before that of the slave Atlantic trade, and even before the Moors, you guys gotta fucking study that, man. You're living in a lie. This slave Atlantic trade of, oh yeah, we've been slaves for this long, and the what, bro, that none of that shit is fucking true. The more that you guys dial into that music, and the more you dial into this stuff and this Jesus you're talking about, the more that stuff becomes undeniably factual. Every argument from a Harvard study has 80% that 80% says that it comes from position versus interest. But the position this stuff puts you guys in never lets you voice your interest. How does this work? How do we free ourselves?
Well, we'll look at hip hop. Look where originally the essence was, it had a balance as well. You could hear positive hip hop on the radio station. Matter of fact, for me, my generation, at least in my household, you cannot play certain rap. Your parents would not allow it. There was a time where they were stomping on rap. Then there was a time where rap had a political message. And this is where the song, the fuck Donald Trump, what happened to that shit?
What happened to YG?
Even YG and Nipsey Hussle made a political song at one time. What happened to that? Oh,
Bloods and Crips? Is that what you're telling me?
Nipsey Hussle. So then we got to say, who were they comparing Nipsey Hussle to as a rapper back in the day? Snoop Dogg, because Nipsey Hussle had the power to circumvent the image of the Crips to what Tupac was trying to do, is say, all right, my brothers, you're blood, you're a Crip. Let's form together with a strategy of organization and a plan of financial wealth and freedom for our people. No more selling drugs to our people. No more doing this. We're going to create our own schools. And so by the time Snoop Dogg, by the time brothers like Tupac had been given, if they would have had the opportunity, same with the brother like Nipsey, the opportunity to live into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, we would be in another time, wouldn't say time loop, but a timeline. So with them killing Nipsey, 80% of the And eventually they'll probably have Snoop Dogg connected to that, like they said Snoop and Diddy are connected, because they had to get rid of Nipsey because Nipsey had the power to revolutionize the gangbangers.
But hold on, real quick, you guys, real quick. I because now we're talking about gangbang, and I just want to throw in this little FYI history. The first, to my knowledge, the first blood sect that was ever formed was the Brims, right? The black, allegedly, that meant Black Revolutionary Independent Militia. The Crips was Community Resources in Progress. So originally, when these groups started forming, it was around the time and after of the Black Panther Party movement. So the Black Panther Party movement really was the first Blood and Crip. But when they came together and they were effective, mind you, they weren't out there gangbanging, tearing down, and terrorizing the stores like how you guys think of modern day secular gangbanging. When you see some Crips, you hide your wallet and you go the other way. When you see some Bloods, you do the same thing. Back in the day, you would go towards the Panther Party because they would give you backpacks, books, food, education, seeds for your garden, food for thought. They'll give you real independent things to lift you up. So at the time of the drugs, when it started coming in and we started to get into that movement of when he's talking about the introduction to niggas with attitude and those types of things, just before that, there was rappers like Most Def. I want y'all to go listen to the song Mathematics. That song in itself is 5 minutes of him just telling you about how the system is fucked. That is not what we listen to today. Did I miss?
No, you're exactly right. That's what we were speaking on when we had conscious artists, intellectual artists, artists that question the system. We needed that, and they killed those artists, or they did not fund those artists. Then they made it to where being intelligent was the word nerd. So what did they do? They had the movie nerds with the white nerds, and who was the black nerd? The gay guy. And then the only cool, smart guy that we super had on TV was Family Matters with Steve Urkel, and they made him look like an idiot. So basically what happened is that they also program women. That's why you see so many black women, single mothers, because they got pregnant by the gangbangers, the thugs, the idiots of the community, because they were watching BET, they were listening to the music too. If their father didn't teach them about Malcolm X, or if they didn't have a father teaching them what a real God is, they fell victim to the TV or what was outside, because then you're dealing with now black men who don't understand who they are and allow a woman to lead them. Because for me, no conscious black man is gonna allow themselves to worship a white Jesus. The only black men who believe in that are men who really bow down to the black woman. Because why are you going to church most of the time? For the brothers that I see go to church, it's usually because of their wives, And so when I look at my grandfather and father, they would always tell me
Hold on, Chief. You made me laugh right there, because I remember when I used to go to church, man, it would always be the sisters down there, and the brothers be kind of going off to the side, and you don't really know what they're talking about. They do their little thizzle, but hey, we got to give a little round of applause for them third road sisters who always had the candy. All right, we ain't gonna disrespect them on the panel now. We can't do that. We can't do that now. Okay. But go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So no, exactly. So basically, where we at? So the church. So basically, the church was the I forgot where you had said something.
Let me bar off on that real quick. So the church, you guys. The church, mind you, back in the day, before it was what it was today, being the gossip epicenter within the black community. If it comes to community or as far as neighborhood, the church right now is our closest thing that we have, and that is true. We have many participants, but I'm not going to go into the quality of the time and how they treat each other and this and this. But back in the day, the church was supposed to be a place where it would give black people the avenue to educate themselves on how to further themselves past this white society that we're allegedly trying to fit into. They would give out, same thing with the Black Panther Party, they would give out education, food, backpacks, and things like that. It was only until it started having infiltrations to where its objective became, like he was talking about, money. physical things, and that's why all of your black pastors today excuse me, drive Maybachs, they drive Benzes, they drive all the nice cars and things like that. However, the church today is the reinforcement epicenter as of our current date, to where we are actually divided and we conquer each other. When we go to church, we gossip. When we go to church, we measure how many people are there. But the moment we find out a black person don't go to our church, they're somehow further away from us. So that really has actually became our police station, to where our communities are able to be built, formed, and stabilized. There's no stability within the black communication or the black community for that purpose only, not only, I'm sorry, but a large majority just for that. These religious beliefs, we're not really talking about what he's talking about, lifting each other and doing all of these things as far as growing, educating, and actually moving forward as far as to a future.
That's exactly why the church was designed, is because it stagnates everyone. There's a church on every black corner in every black community, but there's no innovation at all taking place. They said today, this month, they released the statistics. Black people spent $11 to $13 billion last year at the church. So that lets us know that black people are not broke. They just do not have knowledge of self.
Wait, how
11,
much?
11 to $13 billion black people spend annually at the church. Whoa. Collectively. So I guess they probably added the tithing from every state and everything, and billions of dollars, because we have enough money as black Americans to open up our own nation, but we don't have knowledge of self. So what happens is that if a person gets money, just like an NBA player, you hear about them going broke. And I know you see Shaquille O'Neal and those brothers, but all his businesses, they don't have soul because he's a sellout, you know? So basically, when you have knowledge of self and you have knowledge of financing, that means you have purpose behind your money. And that's what the so-called slave masters, the so-called Donald Trumps, the so-called Europeans, they don't want. Because when you have a plan of action and you have knowledge of self and you have financing, you no longer want to work for white people. Why would you want to work for a white person or work for anybody whatsoever? You would use your so-called God-given knowledge and talent and things you've acquired up to your so-called age, and utilize that experience, that knowledge and information and your network to open up a business. Then, of course, when we naturally had land, you build on the land and then you trade. So that's why us as Murs and Moors were able to go throughout the world with knowledge and set up trade, and we were worshiped as gods. Because as long as you have knowledge of self and as long as the image of you isn't destroyed, people will be welcoming. But right now, the image of God is Jesus, and the image of the true God is Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, and all these other demons and devils that have been paid by the enemies of humanity. Because as long as the original so-called man is asleep mentally and brain dead, it allows other men who do have knowledge of self, of us, to manipulate the entire planet. And same with the woman. As long as the majority of the so-called black woman is ignorant to who she is, she will forever teach her son, her offspring, to worship a white man. Therefore, that so-called black child being raised in the K through 12 system will not ever truly find his way home and find his self-worth, because he's so busy spending his life learning about George Washington, the presidents, learning about slavery, learning about how he's less than, learning about how all these other people are great who don't look like him. But if we start...
And don't forget to mention generational curses.
Well, that's passed through the DNA.
Don't forget to mention generational curses, you guys. I'm sorry, I couldn't let that go. Jason, what you just said was too powerful to just let you just keep talking. When he talks about the mother and her believing this idea that she's only so finite, she's only so big, and she passes that on to the son or the daughter. And this becomes a generational curse, you guys. Let me tell you something. I grew up in the church to where I wasn't, the church I grew up, it was kind of like a cult. I wasn't allowed to play sports. I wasn't allowed to celebrate holidays. I wasn't allowed to do pretty much everything else. So like when it was a holiday or something like that, the kids would get something for Christmas and shit. I'll be sitting there lying like, oh yeah, I got that too. I got that too. And then I got this too. However, what that did to at least my mom is it made her believe she was just like a servant. You just come, you serve. There's nothing you get out of it. Fast forward, that started to affect me down the years as I started to mature. And that athlete that was in me, I started thugging. I started applying that in other directions of life. Fast forward, I get yeah. So anywho, I go back and I die. When I died, it freed my mom from the church, and she started becoming more like how Jason's talking about, where you're educating yourself. You're starting to find out and breaking away from the social norm as far as in the Black culture. But as far as those generational curses of the mom and believing that she's so small, she passed that down to the son, and he's in this white society trying to survive. Well, how are you supposed to survive when you never were given the opportunity to build confidence, to build stability, to build reassurance within self? You never were given the proper tools, either a man or a woman, to survive in a society where everyone, or at least majority, are out to get you. Society has given us a small detail amount of selections, like how we're in school. It tells you, Jason, it tells you A, B, and it gives you C. And no one really says, okay, why can't we have D, E, F, G, or fucking all the way to C, right? So they give you these finite levels. And as far as passing that down generational and freeing your guys' mind intellectually and learning new things, you guys got to break away from these generational curses. And you have to notice them, and you can't be acting as if though they do not exist. Because in the Black community, we're too forgiving on the things that are fucked up in our area, and we just make the best out of it like chitlins.
Well, that's because the image as well. So I have Meteor Man, Hancock, and Blank Man. How many Black superheroes? I know Captain America's coming out. I want to see that one. But growing up, compared to the so-called counterpart before the Mexican and revolution took place in this country with their population, but they're still not as big in Hollywood. It was basically black and white. So compared to white superheroes, how many Black superheroes did we really have?
Shit, we got Blade, we got Hancock, we got that one dude off of Teen Titan.
They don't know that. So basically, we had Meteor Man. Meteor Man was the first Black superhero movie. And what did it teach? He was a teacher. He got hit by a meteor, and he used his superpowers for good. You know what I'm saying? So right there, having the image, and I remember my mom had to drive us to Moreno Valley because they didn't have Meteor Man in all the regular theaters, select theaters. So basically, when we had Blank Man, they made him look all nerdy and all that. But to me, I loved him still. But basically, the image. So Hancock, his weakness was the so-called white woman and liquor. So until he stopped drinking, which I felt that was talking to me and probably a lot of us brothers, is that there's too much drinking going on in the Black community. That's why the liquor companies promote the rappers and entertainers to promote liquor and alcohol, because they know that weakens our superpower. They know that they use alcohol to tear us up as Aboriginal and American Indians. That was one of the weapons. But Meteor Man, he went against what you call the Golden Lords. And so the Golden Lords were what you would call the Black Devils. They had blonde hair. So the reason that they showed them with blonde hair was to symbolize the modern day so-called Black people, to where they have allowed the gangbangers and thugs to become the cool guys. Do you guys remember the movie House Party? In the movie House Party, who were the idiots of the movie? The thugs. House Party 2, that inspired me. House Party 2 inspired me to go to college, one of the movies that did. And it also showed us that being a thug was for bozos, and going to college was the cool thing, like higher learning. But through hip hop, through a government facilitated program ran by homosexual European Jews, they used certain scumbag black men, and they basically gave them salaries to promote a satanic agenda. And that's why rock and roll disappeared. That's why heavy metal disappeared, because they knew that heavy metal, rock and roll had became too anti-government. It became anti-worldly. White kids were overdosing on drugs. White kids were partying in Hollywood. White kids were like, F you, mom and dad. And they were like, we're stopping this. So the same record labels that shut down the rock and roll started hip hop, like Rick Rubin and them with Def Jam. Those dudes were the death metal Ozzy Osbourne engineers and owners. So Geffen Records and all those, Interscope, all they simply did was change heavy metal and death metal to a new name and a new face, which was hip hop. And all they did was promote the same thing heavy metal did: death, murder, drugs, partying, no soul. And then underneath the music, they would have the gunshots and all these things and subliminal messages like they did in the rock and roll music when you would play it backwards. And that's why, and I know it's true because when I was a teacher, anytime a student would play Chief Keef in the classroom, a fight would break out in the classroom. And I knew, I said, oh, they're putting something behind these beats beyond. So they must have been doing that because they did it with rock and roll. There's a movie I want everyone.
Real quick,
go ahead, Josie and the Pussycats.
I want you guys, real quick. I told Jason before we even got on the panel today, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. If you guys take a look at Instagram, TikTok, and social media and all these things like that, you can take a large look at OnlyFans. You can take a look at all of these women, and mind you, the balloon popping show, all of that. There's every ethnicity. This is not singularly just a black person's problem as far as of 2025. We are all under attack. When you look at the black people, the white people, they've been so culturalized with us in the last 20 years that they started saying nigga as freely as we do. Am I lying?
But here's what they did, JoJo. We'll keep talking, but let me catch since you said that. So what hip hop did, this is why they brought in Eminem as a government agent, because what Eminem did, like a Elvis Presley, but in particularly hip hop, white kids were buying up hip hop more than anyone else. Over 80% in the majority of hip hop was bought by suburban white kids. So you had white kids now learning about so-called what was going on in the black community, and we're getting hip to it and wanting to learn about it and wanting to help. They couldn't say nigga still. They had to learn the sciences of the 5%ers. They had to learn the sciences of the gods. They had to study the lingo. They had to study the culture. They had to say F white society, and they started dressing like us, because before hip hop became mainstream, we grew up with the white kids who still listen to rock and roll and call you nigger and fight you in a heartbeat. Versus later on, there were white kids who started listening to hip hop, who went against the racist white kids, who started being cool with the black kids. And that's music. Music did that in general, bringing races together, but in particularly hip hop. So with Eminem, what they did, it allowed white people to feel now included in hip hop without having to adapt to black culture. So now they didn't have to have a black friend anymore. They didn't have to learn African history and be down for the cause. They could simply say, well, Eminem's the best rapper. We're the best at everything, as they've been programmed to do with white supremacy. Dr. Dre solidified him. Snoop Dogg solidified him, and then with the budget behind them, and then when he solidified 50 Cent, which was another demon and a devil that pushed rap beef and pushed black men to celebrate being shot and murder and all that. You talk about, and then who is Eminem connected to? Dr. Dre. Who did Dr. Dre bring into the table? Snoop Dogg, gin and juice, gang banging, cripping. And what did Eazy-E say about Dr. Dre? Subliminal homosexual. So what was all that? It was homoerotic. It was homo thug, and we just didn't catch it. And that's what Tupac, when you even look at him with his bandana, the only dudes who would rock stuff like that were the homo thugs. And when you were talking about the Bloods, T. Rogers from Chicago brought the Bloods in from Chicago, which were Larry Hoover, the Black P. Stones, the Gangster Disciples. So Larry Hoover and Jeff Fort L., those brothers brought in growth and development, which was the Bloods. So originally, like you were saying, the Bloods were all about growth and development, and it turned into a gang because they locked up these leaders. And so it links up to Michael Jackson, a person who wrote music that was healing to the world and had white people passing out. If Michael didn't change his skin color, he never would have been able to reach the masses the way he did. Even though one of my old managers, I won't start dropping names, but his godfather is Michael Jackson, and he said they tried to kill Michael and burnt him on the Pepsi commercial, and actually that's when the surgery and the drugs started. So they tried to assassinate Michael Jackson as well, and so he had doubles. But if you look to the left, you see all of these horror movies, y'all, and that's why they show us all these vampire movies. It's because the God of the Bible, it's the blood drinking entity that they tell you to hide from. And so they push this subliminally to us so we don't become gods again. And that's what Michael was really trying to tell us in all of his albums and all of his videos. Like, remember the time, he was showing us that we were gods at one time in Egypt. And through doing certain moves, you were able to disappear. Throwing certain minerals on the ground, you were able to do things. Movies like Moonwalker. So where he turned into a robot. So he was talking about AI in that movie. And our ancestors talk about time travel. So now when we look at the walls of El Kemet or Tamare, when we look at a modern day black hole, y'all, we actually see an actual wormhole. So right there on the walls of Kemet, we see high advanced chemistry. We see knowledge and information. Because like I teach, now, the pyramids were not only stargates and power plants to harness electricity and distribute electricity throughout the planet for free. It also was a professional machine to astral project, just like Star Trek, Beam Me Up, Scotty, to where you could destabilize your atoms, photons, and neurons and shoot your avatar and consciousness to certain constellations and safely bring back that consciousness through using high advanced technology. And so this is why our ancestors were so advanced, because we were able, one we had a great diet, right? A livid. We were eating living foods. We didn't have a time schedule of someone rushing us. Oh, you got to learn by this time. Da, da, da. You're born this date. Da, da, da. So the European ages us on purpose with these fluorescent.
We lived longer. We lived thousands of years. We were bigger. We were different complexions. It was definitely a different time with different education as far as to what you were. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because even if you go dated back to time like that time, mind you, we always talk about going back in time, and you guys don't be thinking times were perfect and we still did not have our disagreements and disputes and things like that. But as far as what we were able to accomplish as far as a people was so much more advanced than what we are currently as far as today.
Yes, and that timeline still exists, y'all, and that's what they distract us from. They distract us from studying our Mesoamerican history as well, because in the minds of most of our people, they believe that they came here as slaves through the transatlantic slave trade, but that's not true. If we were taught in school and didn't pass down that theory, and we were taught that we were the true American Indians or Black Indians or Olmecs and Mayans and Aztecs who were already here, that changes our perception of reality. And then we're able to identify with a culture outside of the slave narrative that was given to us, which boosts our self-confidence, which allows us to attach to something. That's why the Koreans, the Asians, all these countries and nations have culture, but the European doesn't have a true culture. He's a vampire, so he has to go around stealing and causing pillage and then killing the offspring of those people unless they either assimilate or kill them. And so what happens is what Jojo was saying, the DNA transfers on, and then also by word. So what happens is that the survivors from the pillage and the murdering and the rape of the Europeans, the kids are now taught to assimilate. And the mother, since all the men were killed, the mother now teaches the European man's version of reality, which is a false timeline. Therefore, the majority of people who worship Jesus and all these things, they're actually asleep. They're actually literally sleepwalking. That's why they get the term when people say waking up, even though waking is awake, because in the wake you mourn for the dead. It's because you're rising from the dead, as if you were knocked unconscious. So once you start realizing that there's another conscious reality in a timeline that you can cling onto, that has a culture of food, a way of conducting yourself, a way of treating others, a way of looking at animals and plants, the seasons, you then begin to age differently, because it's clear as day that Europeans age different than those with melanin. So right here, this is the temple of Bonum Pak, y'all. Bonpak. Temple of Bonum Pak. So right here, when you travel to Central America, because a lot of the times when we say America, the Europeans have brainwashed us so much that we think of them. They brainwash us to think that they are the Americans when they're Europeans. They're invaders, because there's a North America, there's a South America, and there's a Central America. But where's the West America? Interesting. So when we study the Americas, North, South America, we find ourselves. And that's what they don't want, because that's when you no longer want to work for them. You no longer want to serve their God. And that's when their problems start, because the moment you have a solution in a community to not work for them, the moment you can provide your own food, clothing, and shelter and happiness for your people, that's when you're free, and that's when the world shuts down, because they use you to control their industries. I'll let you go on this one. So imagine there's no NBA and we control our own NBA. There's wealth in that. Imagine the football leagues, the baseball leagues. When we control our ball games, that alone will provide wealth to build up our own nation. They created Dubai starting in the 1980s, I believe. I might be wrong with that date. So imagine in 20 to 30 years what we could create. And so that's why we must separate, from me, the Black Christians, because they're too stagnated and they don't want to innovate. They've had ample opportunity and the government still gives them funding. It's because the Black Christians are your government agents. And it's not to say that Black Christians as individuals are wrong. We're saying that the entity of Christianity is no longer being applied for what it is. They're not applying the teachings of Jesus, they're worshiping Jesus. Because if you actually study Jesus, he would tell you that you're a God. He would tell you not to follow the system, right? He would tell you that he's from the order of Melchizedek. What's Melchizedek? That comes up out of Kemet, Tamaray, Egypt. It's a priesthood. It's a teaching that you're God and that you need to learn to activate your Merkaba to turn into a spaceship. And so that's when we start learning about Reiki healing, to where you can touch people and actually heal them through your Baron tongue. Coincidentally, Donald Trump's son, his name is Baron. And don't be surprised if that little motherfucker becomes 7 feet tall, because that kid is huge. Literally, he's almost 7 feet tall. That's going to be the representative of the UFC white boys that are training to kill your black asses. So I tell black people, at the end of the day, like JoJo said in the last episode, the movie The Purge tells you perfectly what they're going to do to you. The rest of the world hates you. Can you imagine all the white people who were watching Rick Ross perform? They're like, man, I can't wait to write these laws and lock these niggas up. I got these niggas. Because that's really what it showed. It showed that the majority of our people are enslaved, and now they're a product again. They can actually sell us. They can sell us bad food. They can sell us to jail. They can sell us to prison. They can sell us the Jesus. Black people's mind is for sale, and their soul is for sale now. And that's how you know it's the beginning. The world ended in 2012. But for those who wake up, people wake up every day, but we also see more people falling victim and going back to sleep. So to end it, JoJo, basically, I would say that the majority of our people are under a hypnotic spell, and they're actually asleep in another multiverse, and that they're sleepwalking. And so, to end it with this, y'all, this is the Mesoamerica Bonum Pac. Look at the trumpets. So right there, we were dealing with brass instruments. So that means that we were able to know math, because once you learn music notes, it's another language. And then to the left right here, we see the same like terracottas in our same hieroglyphs that you find in Egypt. So the same type of angles, the same type of linen cloths, the same type of aprons that you find in Tamaray Kemet, you find in Mesoamerica, because it's the same people, y'all. The ancient Cometians and the Egyptians were trading, making love with their women. It's the same people. So when we're taught this again, now you no longer have to identify as a Christian. You no longer have to identify with this timeline that they've given you of you being a slave from Africa. You clearly see that you're an infinite being. Look at the dreadlocks, y'all. Look at the head wraps. Look at the music. So we can live in that again. We just need these conversations, and we need the financing for our land, and really for first our brick and mortars, from micro to macro. And here we see in Brazil, not Brazil, Belize, the Lamine temple. And right here, I have the movie Black Panther with Killmonger, because it represents that in the movie, it shows you that in the museums, they have our technology. What you might think is just an artifact, you might touch it and it activates, and it actually an electrical crystal activated touchy device. And that's what they were dropping to you in the movie Black Panther, that they actually had been tomb raiding these ancient sites and stealing our technology, because that's what they're afraid of. These ancient artifacts are weapons, y'all. They're weapons. So right there, you can see yourself. It looks like JoJo almost. So imagine when these temples were colored, because they acid washed these. And so Indiana Jones, right here, the Forbidden Temple, showing you the serpent. And anytime you see the serpent, you see Naga. And who are the Nagas? That's us, where you get the word Niga.
I said the same thing. Hey, I was on mute, but as soon as you said it, I said us.
There you go.
You're damn right. You're damn right, Skippy. Hey, no, but one thing I wanted to say about these movies and things like that. These movies are always dropping gems, and I love how this is called the Matrix University, because I want everybody to backtrack to the first Matrix movie where they first discovered the Neo. The Neo means one. There he is. He's putting the picture up for me. Right on. So he discovers himself, and they told him, "You're the one. You're this. He didn't believe that shit. He didn't believe that until the movies progressed. The movies, not just that one, where he started to let go of his physical beliefs, of everything that he learned in that, to discover a whole and two. He said, you want to know the truth? And as soon as he found the truth, everything became different. And as the movie started to progress, you notice how at the last movie, this fool could fly.
Yes. Yes.
That's the Matrix. Literally, the Matrix is such a good allegory within itself, because it really tells you guys, like, listen, you guys need to beware of the white girl in the red dress. You guys remember that scene where they said, don't look at her, don't look at her, don't look at her. And he turned his head and he snapped. It's the same thing, you guys. We're stuck in this Matrix, man, and it's all in front of you. And we'll go back to that picture with Men in Black. You see that? He always says, look at the black light, right? The black light is your phone, you guys. And as soon as they hit that button, you forget everything that you're just talking about in this last hour and a half. And it makes your ass have ADHD.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, because people can't pay attention anymore. That's why they had to make TikTok illegal. Well, they should, because it was a weapon that China gave to our people to make them dumb. And that quick, you see how people were addicted to it. They made.
Have you seen people on Instagram talking about, they take away TikTok? What am I going to do? Or I read one comment, so I can't just religiously be on Insta or social media now. I'm like, what? They were like actually like mad about it. I'm telling you, dude, this Insta, Snap, everything that you guys have, it's making you guys stupid. The more you guys swipe, the more you guys look, the more you do. Half of the information the majority of people heard on this, they forgot what we said an hour ago.
Wow. Yeah, it definitely was a weapon used against.
Just like the button, like what's his face? Will, he hits you. He says, just look at the button. You hit that flash, and everything goes back to normal, you guys. Everything goes back to normal. When you go over to that church and they feeding you that same dogma and morals, it's even in the book, Morals and Dogma. Look right here, you guys. It's all gone. Once you guys go home and then you're drinking your coffee and you turn on the news, look here, it's gone. The moment you go and you get on the freeway and you look at all these advertisements and you see all this traffic, you're gone. As soon as you get to work and someone's screaming at you, stressing you out, you don't remember all that passion that you had about that shit you were thinking about last night. You're not thinking about or retain those dreams. Look right here, and it's gone. It's right in front of your guys' faces, man. It's like the slavery we're talking about on this panel, man. This is really a choice. If you guys just shut out and you guys just go spend a little bit of time with yourselves, you're going to discover a lot of healing. I have a quick story because I don't want to take too much time here. So after I had that accident and I died, I had a deity. The deity escorted me to different dimensions, and I thought I was crazy. I was like, yo, this shit isn't real. This is like the movies. I have no merit. This isn't real. So something comes up, and I was paralyzed. I could walk. A year later, I went skydiving. I'm being fast because it's a long story. There was this kid. He was in a coma for 9 months, and he couldn't move. But for some reason, it was like my ancestors were telling me, bro, work on him, and he's going to be back to normal. Just do it. So I'm looking up at the ancestors. I said, okay, let's see if this works or not. I'm going to send you the videos and stuff for the next time so we can show the panel. But I spent time with this fool for about a year and a half. The doctors didn't know how he was healed. His therapist didn't know how he was healed. I'm telling you, you guys, we have something within inside of us, and everyone has a secret miracle worker. That wasn't the only one. This other dude broke his neck. He couldn't move. He was older. I worked with him and did his physical therapy. Mind you, I wasn't qualified, didn't have a doctorate, didn't have no degrees. I found myself in the ICU working on this dude, and it was, what, a month and 6 days? And he was back walking.
Wow.
Your ancestors are really there with you, man. If you're on that heightened level, they can give you the proper remedies. They'll give you guys these ideas. They'll give you guys these ideas on how to break away from this secular religion, from this secular idea and these sacrificial beliefs to where you always have to give to receive. Dude, it's your God-given right to receive the merit in the earth and the berries. It's your God-given right, you guys. It's not something you earn. It's something that's just naturally yours by a God-given rule or a universal rule.
I agree, brother. I agree. So is there anything you want to close it out on, brother?
Yes. This is my challenge for the panel, you guys. This week, and this week alone, I want you guys to use your guys' eye. I don't mean your eyes when you're looking around. I mean use your eye, the one that you can't see. And I want you to go discover that within yourself, because I'm telling you, the more you distract yourself and the more that you convince yourself that you're just an ordinary person, the more you keep telling yourself that, oh, he's talking about someone, but it's not me. Dude, you literally are under attack from a foreign principality, and you need to break loose from those chains. So this week, you guys, use your guys' third eye. Look around, look at the stars, look at the plants, go stand in the garden barefoot, whatever you got to do, but break away from the matrix so we can have a new beginning. Just be 20% better than you were yesterday. Does that sound too good?
Oh, it sounds amazing, brother. And as we close it out, we talked about the Trump inauguration. Do not get brainwashed in the new time loop. You see, every 4 years, they do a new president, or a person does the same term. You already know the agenda. The agenda is like JoJo said, the black mirror, the black phone, distractions, things stopping you from going into the ethers, the most high thoughts in your mind, and taking the most high thoughts that you can think of and bringing them down into your avatar body, and then manifesting that into the physical reality. These are distractions, and they're putting new applications, just like they give you new phone apps like TikTok. Donald Trump and these new people are just like an application to your matrix. They're an application for those who want to distract you from becoming the God within. Uncle Tom's Cabin. Clearly, like JoJo said, throughout history, we have sellout Negroes, not just currently, but in the past. So when we talk about, they'll say, oh, the Pharaoh was evil. Which one? I'm not going to say that there wasn't a brother who was in power that never was corrupt. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is that I guarantee you that there were more righteous brothers in rule during the time when we were building. How do we know this? Because you can judge a people and judge a nation by their art. You judge them by their architecture, their art, and their literature. So right now, black people's art is non-innovative. It's gangbanging, it's thug. Our women have a slave mentality. So we're dealing with an enslaved group of people. That's why they call themselves black, because we know we are not that. So we're going to deal with that in the next episode. So Donald Trump is Uncle Tom's Cabin. And today we talked about hip hop and Trump. So it's not hip hop versus Trump. We're letting you guys know that hip hop is Trump. Fake, satanic, debauchery, a delusional way of thinking, a distraction from you becoming your higher self. And then also we know that they said they're attacking the so-called woke community. So we have to use different code words like the cosmic community, because even they say the consciousness movement is under attack. So words are under attack. Your way of thinking is under attack. Freedom of thought is under attack, not just freedom of speech. And then we see that Barack Obama is related to these people. So we know that they use frontmen. We know that they use sellout Negroes throughout history, and that this spirit and entity, as we clearly see, can jump from color to color. So whatever entity it is, it has no color when it comes to the agenda to distract us from not being our higher selves. So right there, Trump and hip hop, Barack Obama and Donald Trump, all of your leaders who on television give you the perception that they're enemies, give you the perception that they're not friends. So while People who claim to be Democrat or Republican, hate Trump, love Kamala, are stressing out and messing up their day after they're done recording with the TV and the cameras. They're friends. So you are now being manipulated with your emotions, which is going to control the way you eat. There's poison in the food, poison in the sky, poison on the TV. It's everywhere. So that's why we need each other. Because with AI and all these robots coming, it's basically built to end humanity, to end the separation that you have with the plant, the water, the air, your brother, regardless of their skin color or sexuality at this point. You know, they're basically making you fall in love with the robot that's going to enslave you because they have no emotions. That's why they said that our lowest form created the so-called Europeans when we genetically engineered them. So imagine what their lower form creates. You get it? So the Yakub experiments, or we would say our Moorish experiments, created a race of beings using our brown DNA and animal DNA. Okay? And the ones that we just made lighter for the experimentation to see what would a being act like with less melanin compared to those with more melanin. What would a being act like with less melanin and straight hair that's not able to receive the highest level of information? That's why we came in these avatars right here, is because those with less melanin aren't able to download this type of information as fast and naturally, versus them, they are simply regurgitating information. And it's not to say that one with less melanin cannot grab up out of the ethers, but we're saying that as great as the European and the other so-called less melanated humans are great, imagine when we have the opportunity and time and less distractions to go as high as we can with our thoughts and bring them down. No other so-called race of humans are able to do that, or they would spontaneously combust. So it's not about ego saying that one is better because you have melanin, or that you're so-called black, or that your hair texture is of wool. It's to say that this avatar and this spacesuit and machine was specifically built to handle all this high-level sunlight and information. And we have to be able to run around. We have to be able to be creative, or we will go insane. So right now, our people are like a polar bear at a zoo that's not even in the glaciers, that's not able to roam around and hunt. Right now, our people are Shamu at SeaWorld, locked in a pool, not able to swim with the dolphins in the ocean. This is where
How to
we
remember how to love, how to imagine, how to be, present, but most importantly, of all the vibrational things and all the forms of magic, from hoodoo, from voodoo, from black magic to soft magic to hard magic. Love is one of the hardest forms of magic. I don't understand, but even in the animal kingdom, it's their love for each other that holds the unit together. We need to remember that humans are the only thing that you can really love, and it can love you back. As much as you love your iPhone, it don't give a fuck about you. As much as you love that robot he's talking about, it don't give a fuck about you. As much as you love the artificial intelligence to make your guys' life easier, it don't give a fuck about you. Be careful of these robots, man, because the more that you start to love it, the more it's hard to let it go. The more you let it in, the more you let go of your sovereignty as of being a human. Remember that.
So knowledge frees you. So therefore, knowledge is the most high God, because knowledge, if it's correct knowledge, will always be there for you. Just like they try to say God, even though it's spelled G-O-D, dog spelled backwards, you know, knowledge is always there for you. Knowledge of self when it's right and exact, you know, and that's the dangers of the church. every church throughout every city has a different way of teaching. If I were to line up 10 Christians and give them the same Bible verse, every single Christian is going to give me a different response of what that Bible verse meant. Therefore, that Bible verse is not the word of the Most High, it's the word of man, because you're trying to corrupt someone by saying that's the word of the Most High because it's in a book called the Bible that has no bibliography or references. The only reason that Black people have to reference the Bible and over as if it's the Most High book is because they forget that in times of slavery, it was illegal for you to read. So the Bible was the first book that they gave you to read. The real books were either burnt or hidden away from you. So
it was a word of interpretation.
There you go. So anyone telling you that the Bible is the word of God is either misinformed or lying to you. So you have to be careful in these days of time of God worship. We're not trying to say of atheism that there's no spiritual or metaphysical realm in higher and lower planes of existence and higher intelligent beings. What we're saying is that when you allow people to use words, which are spells, they captivate you and enslave you in a thought, an idea, which eventually after a few patterns, you begin to live in it, which creates a timeline. But if you did not create that timeline, you're living in a false reality, which is a nightmare, a dream for the European, but a nightmare for our people. And it's a matrix hologram because it's intelligently designed through spells, through organization, and it's put into play, which they do in Hollywood. They use the Hollywood to do spells and magic behind the scenes with the script and the pen, and they write the script. They put it into play and action on the set. Who is set? Learn about Osiris, learn about Aset, learn about with the word now they use ISIS to demonize, because the word ISIS will move you forward to the word ASAET, Aset, which is the worship and deification of the so-called Nubian Black woman being the creator and creatress of civilization, birthing God, which we call the male most high deity. The reason we know we are the gods is because the melanin, as the so-called male, with the melanin in our hair, we are able to vibrate on the highest frequency more than any other so-called human. So when we're in our own state of peaceful being in our own land, we are able to innovate at higher rates. And this is when they get mad, is because we are able to do things they cannot do, not just on the basketball and football court, but intellectually. So what it was like for me as a teacher, it became depressing because I saw the solutions. These Black kids are bored. I saw the solutions. They're being taught by Europeans. The majority of the principals are white. The majority of the teachers are white. The curriculum is white. And then the so-called Black teachers have a European white mentality, or they're a homosexual. So therefore, there's no one on campus teaching the Black kids that they're God, teaching them about their ancient Kamish and Tamare history. The food is bad. There's no cultural food there. So therefore, you're learning to be a slave in church, on TV, through music now, and through the K through 12 system. So when the true gods return and walk amongst you, you do not recognize this. It's because of Jesus worship. And so they'll say, well, Jason, Jesus walked on water. Jesus can heal. I can do that. I have the capabilities to do that. I just need the opportunity to learn that, which means that I have to have the time and no distractions to where I can focus on learning to destabilize my atoms, building a machine that I could walk on water or fly. Not just through destabilizing and using atoms, you can build machines to where you can fly. That's why certain beings, they said, had wings. How do you know that those weren't machines attached to their back? Not saying that those beings with wings don't exist. But what I'm saying is that when we talk about Reiki healing, imagine spending 20 years in a institution, or not an institution, but let's say a learning center like we did in ancient times and future times, which we will have, to where you're learning how to heal yourself through sound and touch. So basically, the same things that they teach you Jesus could do, you can do too. It's just that their school systems do not teach you that. But even in their Bible, they say that all of their God's prophets learned in Egypt, Mizraim, Ra.
Hey, hold on real quick, Jason. So I always talk about as far as if I've done something or if I've performed the miracle or if I've performed the magic, then I'll talk about it. I
Okay.
performed the miracle as far as what you're talking about is the healing and stuff like that. Like how Jesus can take the blind man and make him see, how I could take the paralyzed man and make him walk. And that wasn't just one, it was a recurring thing, including myself. So the magic I learned in that, as far as for when people, as far as on the panel, you guys are learning, well, how do we have these magical things? Because all of these descriptions, if they sound nice, but how do you really perform it? I'll tell you, faith really can bring you a long direction. Your ancestors can only connect to you when you think they listening. Your ancestors can only give you downloads when you are receptive. You can only act on these miracles when you actually you act upon it. They have this old Christian thing they say, many are calling, but few are chosen. Well, the reason why few are chosen is because few people really can listen to that. Few people will believe that, man, I might be that miracle worker in the family. Some of y'all have these divine gifts on somehow mending broken relationships with people. Everyone always calls you on your phone. Hey, so she said this and this. How the fuck do I break that? Some people of you might have some educational gifts to where you're able to just dissect the math. Like Jason, he has that type of mind to where you give him XYZ, he gonna learn it. He'll come back and tell you things you didn't even know were there. These God-given gifts, it's just some of us are able to listen to it. It's not, it first starts with faith. You got to have a little bit of faith. You got to have a little bit of love, and you have to have a little bit of some will and some want. This education me and him are talking about, and we're not atheists or nothing like that, but you guys, it really starts from fixing your inner selves. You have been so damaged through the years of trauma. You have to break away from that. Educate yourself on the other part of your story to where you were once the greatest thing that ever stepped foot on this earth. These
Exactly.
institutions and all these things that he's talking about really are just things that's just breaking you down on your day-to-day life. There's an explanation why Black people are aggressive to each other. There's an explanation why a majority of us have these uncontrollable anxieties, these depressions that come in the wind and fall in the night. There's a reason why we all have these similar vulnerabilities, but we hide them from each other. We're aggressive about it. We're mean to each other to try to hide the fact that, my nigga, inside, I'm really hurting. Inside, I'm really battling some shit. Inside, I'm really, really trying to fight the fight. Y'all got to understand, you're not alone. But all this stuff we're talking about is really what brings you to these negative places. You got to move your directional, you bring your focus, your mind, your soul, and body on everything Jay's talking about. All the stuff he's saying isn't just like a tangent or a rant. It's just parts of history that we're ignoring. We're only talking about these things, how it affected us, and what we can do with it as far as of current day. Like his interest, it makes complete sense, and it's true. We have been lied to, and we have been under this state of magic, under spell. We've been playing the hopscotch, and it is as fucked up it is to say, all of us, including Jason and myself, have all participated in being a sellout at some part of our lives. We have to earn a living, so we have to sell ourselves. We have to make money, so we sell ourselves. We're not being oblivious to the realities of the conditions to where we live, but you guys still have to be mindful that tomorrow, if we're going to build a future, some stability, and we're going to actually credibly actually build something, we got to go back in time, you guys. We got to start asking more bigger questions.
Where
Why
we
is it that,
go
huh?
ahead. Finish your statement.
I was going to say, we have to go back, you guys. And like he's saying, man, you guys got to educate yourself. It really starts with the will and the want to just ask a little bit further from what you guys are hearing on this panel. It's not just bull jive. We talking and talk for hours, man. You guys can have such a better day-to-day life if you just have a little bit more to look forward to than a sky daddy that never presents to you the outcomes to which you wish to yield.
Facts. When we look, before we go to the next slide, you see at the top, you see the Black Panther sisters. So use that as a reference, y'all. Use that as a time to where we were that. We had advanced technology. We had advanced civilizations. Put that in your head. That's why they had to murder and kill and poison Chad Boysen, or the head Black Panther in real life, because the power of image, the power of reality, having young Black kids being able to put that movie in and watch it and build those universes. That's why we have to create more books with that, just like Jason and the Lost Pyramid. Then movies like Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, to where we create movies and films about doing the right thing instead of films that promote us doing the wrong thing. Josephine Baker, this sister, I think she saw Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. And then Malcolm X. We need more films making our superheroes the gods. You know,
Hey, real quick on your book, Brother Jason. You guys, on his books, mind you, all this, like, again, the stuff we're talking about is meant to be here to plant seeds. That book, Jason Goes to Africa, he goes to the museum. All these books are just things to plant seeds. So if you guys get a chance, make sure you go check that out. I'm pretty sure you can get it on Amazon. Take a look and get it for one of your partners. But I will go back and let you finish what you were saying.
So yeah, and this internet, we can even look at Boys in the Hood. Imagine the influence that had. Although we cried when Ricky got shot, did Boys in the Hood play a role in making Black men want to be gangbangers? Think about it. And then in the movie Ghost, you see how she has that fez on, but also our sisters and brothers who have gifts, such as myself, who are able to talk to different realms, different entities, what they would say the dead, really the living, just they're vibrating on a different frequency. We need to open up more learning education centers to where we can heighten our psychic abilities, heighten all of these superpowers that lay dormant in our DNA. This is why they teach us that we only use less than 50% of our mind. If we are using,
make learning cool again, man.
That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, we got to make learning cool again. Y'all don't have to keep on buying into that narrative of you got to be an entertainment for you to make a difference. If you do your research, you'll find out who made the light bulb, who made the electricity, who made the television, who made the computer screen, who did all of these, man.
So right here, before we slide it, Hollywood, Black Hollywood, let's create the Elmwood. The Elmwood is what the MERS use. So I'm creating my own film industry step by step, So whoever wants to help and be a part of it, hit me up. If you're a photographer, a filmmaker, and you have dope equipment and you have concepts, let's merge together and start making short films, positive, dope, cool films. I'm opening up the Sesame Streets, romper rooms. That's what the Matrix University is all about, giving you examples of books. So I never met a Black dude who did books growing up. When I would go to the library, I would read about the Hardy Boys. There were no Black kid books. So I'm doing that. So in the future, that's a cool thing. And it's an industry to where a kid can grow up and say, man, I could write books for a living. I could open up my own publishing house. I could really be a positive filmmaker. Forget being a gangbanger or a thug. I could be a professor and open up my own universities and schools. But first I have to know this and that. Now it gets exciting again. But most Black kids and men don't even think like that right now. If they're showing,
don't even know how to tie a tie, Brother Jason.
So here we go. You see Michelle Obama hugging George Bush. So don't ever think that the people you see on TV are your friends. These politicians are not your friends. You see Donald Trump and Obama next to each other, but an average person is stressing out when they watch CNN. They're picking sides in their minds about Republican, Democrat laws and issues that are already set because they give you voting, and really you don't determine none of that. The local elections we play with, but when it comes to the broader scale, no one's going to allow a citizen to run their business because the United States of America is a corporation. They have invaded our indigenous land and aboriginal land, and now our people think that they're free. Matter of fact, they don't even think. So now if you're so-called white, you are enslaved too. So it's really about life and death. They make us think that this is the only realm you exist. And when you die, there's either heaven or hell. If they taught you that your consciousness never dies, the way you treat other people would be different. And then you wouldn't play into the puppeteers. If you knew that Barack Obama is literally cousins with George Bush, you would question things. You would question your allegiance to the idea that the government is on your side. So here we go. When it comes to the top black people, educators, doctors, and lawyers, right? Those are pretty much the top things. I know there's ways to make money like truck driving and stuff like that, which is great. But when it comes to the top people of your society, they're going to be your educators, your doctors, and your engineers and stuff like that. So we're supposed to we're supposed to trust these people, right? We see that they murdered Johnny Cochran, right? When he got OJ free, that was a brother who was on our side. And then they murdered Kim Kardashian's dad as well. And then all of a sudden they blew up. Now we have Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Rat, a known FBI informant, has been the face of the black community, or one of the faces for the so-called black community for years. So imagine if you're a so-called white person and you look at this image and you know this dude's an informant, you see him with his pressed hair. What do you think other races think of black people when they see that the top people who represent the so-called black community are a freaking joke and have no honor, have no integrity? They don't do business with you. And this is why a lot of black men, especially on the West Coast, we don't have the funding, because one, we don't have our own banks. It's that we've lost the trust of the rest of the races. There's no longer trust and love, like JoJo said, in the black community, but the perception to the rest of the world is that the black man is not to be trusted. So right here, when you call yourself an African American, you still have to understand that that is a false timeline. There's no such thing as an African American prior to Jesse Jackson. So now we have people calling themselves and identifying on paper, writing a spell created by one of their satanic black overlord people. Jesse Jackson put black people under a spell. And as we know, the word black means lack of light, lack of knowledge. So when you call yourself black, you're putting yourself once again under a spell. Then when you call yourself African American, you're putting yourself under Jesse Jackson's spell.
Hey, real quick again, what I was talking about to you guys earlier, just probably like 30 minutes ago, as far as these narratives and these false timelines. When you guys keep buying into that slave Atlantic train timeline of speech and things like that, it only reinforces that timeline was actually fact. Whether it be true or not, the more that you keep on diving into that kind of stuff, you're going to keep telling yourself that it was real, it was real, it was real, it was real. And it's funny you got a picture of all these people because, again, you have a white society that is not designed for us, but our representatives on this picture don't look like they're not friends. Am I lying to you? So how is a black representative, are we supposed to know you stand behind us? It doesn't work that way. Like most of these black people who are representatives, they don't be up in Compton, not in the fires right now. They're not over there passing out stuff to the hood because they know that there's underprivileged black children who are over there on Section 8 and they can't even make it across the freeway because of the fires. So then as far as black representation, now I'm more so questioning authenticity. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there you go. You see Donald Trump with Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, James Brown, Don King, And then why is it that whenever something happens with a black person, you see Ben Crump? Like, are there 20 different Ben Crumps? Like, are there any other high profile black attorneys? Are you guys seeing that a lot of these so-called black events you see on TV are orchestrated? Anytime I see this dude, I'm like, yo, it's fake. And people are like, oh, they can't make fake events. Yes, they can, because they control the news. They literally control everything you see on that TV. And then when you got the cell phone, they made it to where you watch dumb videos on TikTok. Meanwhile, China's showing kids how to build things and all that. That should be the conversation. How can we build up the land? Black people ain't worried about that. They talking about TikTok in the football game. They still talking about God is good all the time, but God has black people in poverty.
Hey, real quick, you guys. So the narrative, real quick, because it'll only take 20 seconds. We always have this narrative that we say we deserve our land back, right? So if there was a million of us who really truly believe that, if we came together as a collective with just $500 or $100, you would have money and you can buy a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. But if we're spending $11 billion in church, we're spending the rest on everything that Brother Jason just told you, it's not going to be a really bright future for us tomorrow if you cannot come together as a collective. Or what that video say? Show niggas some fucking love, man. Keep going.
So right here we see Little Nas X, right? And so what do you see him holding up? Nike. That symbol is an ancient African symbol, y'all. So you guys need to start learning about the Gucci patterns and a lot of these famous clothing brands actually steal your ancient symbols, knowing that it has power within the symbol, and put it on a shoe or a clothing. So logos are important. So right here, you see the black man, the homosexual with the satanic agenda, with the nails painted, pumping Nike. So once again, it's showing you how we can have our own shoe lines if we were to support each other, but it's showing you how they use us as the battery, just like they used Michael Jordan to pump up Nike. They said that Jordan saved Nike. Now we look at Diddy on the bottom of the screen. You should learn about your magic in the occult and not stay away from it, so you cannot be deceived. This is why they tell you in church to stay away from Satanism, stay away from paganism, because you're supposed to study it. That was one of the greatest things that I did in college, was to take religious classes. I took world religion, and then also graduating from Notre Dame.
Hey, hold on real quick, Brother Jason. You just said about Satanism and studying it. If anyone on the panel has actually truly gave some thorough research to the core beliefs, you can go on their website even and go look up what Satanism actually believes. You hear the word Satan and you bombarded because you don't even ask the question of, what do these fools even believe? It's really, really close to Christianity, just a little bit more extreme, in my opinion. Don't touch children. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do it without will, but know the consequences. Little stuff like that. It's like Christianity in a more clear lens. Go take a look.
And for those who are Christian, if you study the original Christians, which are the Gnostics, they tell you that the God that you worship is a demon. You know that, right? Every Christian watching this, study the Gnostics. It's spelled Gnostics, Gnostics. The original Christians teach you that this world, the God you worship, is a demon. And that's why he asks for physical things, because these entities need human participation to exist. So if you don't participate in the blood sacrificing, the debauchery, all this magic, if you don't participate in their schools, their churches, their religion, their God dies.
Nice.
And that's when you guys got to watch the show called American Gods. Watch the show American Gods, y'all. And it shows you how we are the new gods, and a lot of us are the ancient gods. Some of us are the creators of the gods, because gods don't exist unless the humans participate. But this particular God and these gods that are coming out, the gods that are about to be done with, these are the wicked ones. These are the ones telling you to kill, murder, confuse you. This is the God that told Adam. These are examples. So the story of Cain and Abel, perfect example of the God of this realm. Who did the God of the Bible love with what he brought? Cain versus Abel. What did Cain bring? Cain brought meat, right? And Abel brought herbs and corn and all that. So that was an example of someone who spent time, effort, and methods. They had to study the seasons. They not only had to study the seasons, they had to think of other people. Because when you're growing crops, usually you're not just thinking of yourself, maybe in certain situations, but you're able to study the land, versus Cain, who could just walk up to an animal and slaughter it without any knowledge, without anything. Why was that particular God pleased with the slaughter of an animal versus one who brought loving gifts of not slaughtering? It's because the God of the Bible is the lower frequency deities that rely on flesh, that
Hold
rely
on,
on blood
real quick.
sacrifice.
Hold on real quick. I just want to, because he said a lot of powerful things, but let me slow that down. I want you guys to conceptualize this lighter I have in my hand as this foreign entity that now comes down and says that I don't agree with what you do, I don't agree with who you're chilling with, and I don't agree with your guys' narrative. Either you're going to accept me, or I'm going to blast you or damn you into the internal damnation of fiery abyss and abyss. Put that into layman terms is someone just put a gun to your chest and said, if you give me your wallet, I'm not finna kill you. Does that really sound like an omniscient, pure being?
No. And when he describes hell as a physical place, he says fire and brimstone, so that's physical. That's actually creating, a physical place. And then up top, he groomed minors. So they use the so-called black man as the fall guy, because that's not in our nature. When we're conducting community efforts, we don't rock like that to that extent, even though we know the so-called original Satanists and people who were doing that look like us. That's what I say the Hebrews and stuff were. Those were the black people who also were going around murdering people in the name of Jehovah, in the name of Yahweh. They were black as well, and they had their Israelites, which were their so-called slaves, or their people that they created, which today you find as your Ashkenazi Jews, who are the minions for your so-called black Satanists. And so right here, you see what society is really based on, and that your favorite celebrities have different entities in them. So every time you're listening to their music, you're listening to these entities as well.
And some people on the panel might give this question, say, okay, Mr. Jason, how does this really affect me just being a plain ordinary person just watching the panel? And a response to that is, the more that you indulge in these things, in the secular music and things like that, if you are black, it's always going to leave a taste and ingrainment of that's who you are, what you represent. And you're going to be just like Samuel Jackson. You're going to become what's called, the medical term is called Stockholm Syndrome. It's when you fall in love with your captor for whatever binding reasons. But if you ever watch Beauty and the Beast, it's the same thing. You have your captor, and they give you a little bit of these little monetary little pleasures and things like that. But on a day-to-day basis, the more you consume and you start to just fall into these narratives, you're going to have more depressive dates. Because as a black person in America, how is it really, like, how do you wake up and feel like you matter? You have your people, when you go say hi to them, they don't say hi back. You have society and police looking after you. You have all of these third party things that are built against you as a black person. So you guys have to put some real thought and mindfulness into that.
Keep going, JoJo.
Oh, my bad. I
So
thought,
right,
I thought you were telling me hurry up because of the time. I was like,
oh no, I was gonna pour a little coffee. We got like 15 more minutes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
right here, JoJo told me to get a picture of Samuel L. Jackson. He asked me to get a picture. So I did, and I forgot that Django provided a perfect example of the mentality that we have. For one, you got the so-called black man who is given power by the so-called white man, Leonardo DiCaprio. So he feels that he has some type of power, even though it's false power. And now he's putting the black woman in check to force that reality on her. So now we're dealing with that science. So right here, the modern day black man is outside of the slave master's house. He's in cities now. He's in your counties now. He's your senator. He's your favorite rapper. He's your principal. He's your teacher. He's your reverend. Might be your husband. And this is, and then right here you see the skull to the right. So it's letting you know in front of the sister that Leonardo DiCaprio is part of a brotherhood. Learn about the skull and bones. Learn about the skull and bone fraternity. So right there you see that truly Samuel L. Jackson might be the owner of that house. Truly, in that he might have been a Moor whose parents owned that house, and Leonardo DiCaprio's Europeans fathers took over that. I forget the storyline, but in all reality, when you look at these slave mansions, they tell you that the slaves built them, but a slave doesn't have knowledge of geometry. A slave cannot build a mansion. And the Slavic sure didn't build it. So who built those slave quarters and mansions? The Moors and Moors did. Those slaves.
It even says that America was discovered and it was already in an advanced civilization. So that timeline is not, you see what I'm saying? That timeline kind of jumps. How can you not know geometry and then just, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, this is, mind you, this is all conversations and things we're just saying we notice.
And this is why segregation and desegregation was bad. Because look at this. We subjugated, we forget they brought in the military. They had to escort black kids with the military into these white schools, y'all. And in the middle, what do you see? You see Malcolm X. What did Malcolm teach us versus Dr. King? Dr. King led us into a burning house. And we love all of our brothers. But at the end of the day, his dream has become a nightmare for our people. We no longer have our own schools, y'all. And so like Malcolm said, you're never supposed to be educated by your enemy. You're never supposed to be educated by those who enslaved you and colonized you. So ever since they desegregated the schools, 1954, Brown versus Board of Education, we have slowly but surely lost our identity of who we are as a people. Look at the way these sisters were dressing, though. When was the last time you saw a black woman dressed like that in public? She will be called weird right now.
A nerd, square, all these derogatory names, but then you see a same black woman on a Friday night with her tits out, and you give her praise and lift her up like a goddess.
And look at their hair. Look at their hair, y'all. It's because they put chemicals recently in the hair press and all these certain things. And that's why our modern day sisters' hair isn't beautiful like some of our mothers and grandmothers' hair. Because they made our black women, like they say other races, when I would go to college, they say black girls are ugly. And I would get mad, but when I would look, I would be like, damn. But when they would see my mom, all the white girls would be like, damn, your mom's pretty. She's beautiful. And white women would awk at my mom, every race. And so that's when I started seeing and noticing the beauty of the Black woman has changed, because the majority of Black women of today have to be masculine. The food that they eat, the music they listen to, the men that they want, single motherhood. So the shape of her faces look different. The way she thinks is different. The way her hair is, the way she dresses. So right here, when you see the military escorting the Black woman, the modern day Black woman is no longer herself. She is a military project in full effect. The modern day Black woman is a project. She is no longer herself, and therefore she produces a son. And she has taught her son to no longer want to be Malcolm X. Matter of fact, most Black women probably don't even teach her sons. Now, I know there's going to be sisters watching this, but sisters, out of all of your friends, how many times do they put on a Malcolm X movie or DVD? How many people watching this have really watched the Malcolm X movie, let alone typed in Malcolm X lecture? You know, think. So
Hey,
right
you be seeing
here,
my facial structures change, Jason, because I'm just agreeing in my head like, damn, 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 damn. And it's really, really true. I work at the school, you guys, and you see the representation for these young Black kids, this one Black kid, this one Black kid, this one Black kid. And when you look at their parents, man, they're just so empty and void full of the knowledge. They don't teach that kind of stuff. They've been taught on Biggie Smalls, crack cocaine, and absence of fatherhood or motherhood. So the majority of us and things like that, as far as these masculine roles the woman has taken on, well, with the absence of a father, the daughter at that early on age now is presented with a lot of life tasks that only a man is presented with. So it just puts us at a whole disadvantage as a unit for us to be able to build homes, build families, build things outside of the lustful thoughts and these Cardi B idealisms of beauty. And like what Jason was talking about, becoming more masculine. You're not fulfilling your woman role no more. She's just not herself. Not to say that she is useless, but to say that she's damaged and she needs a lot of care and a lot of tender loving care from brothers like me and Jason.
facts, because for those who know me, I actually praise and worship the goddess. So anyone who knows me knows that I've been speaking on that from day one since I had my super awakening. But right here, before we go on, I want to show you this picture to the left. We see all of these so-called greats, and we do see some sellouts in there. But what do you notice? A lot of these brothers were assassinated. Look at Bob Marley, Kobe Bryant. And then look at today, we see Marcus Garvey. I wanted to ask, what was the significance of them exonerating Marcus Garvey on the day of Martin Luther King and Trump? That's something I want everybody to look into and learn about Marcus Garvey and the Black Star. We need our own cruise lines, our own airlines, our own civilization again. But when that's not a thought and reality in your head, you're a slave. Our people are not free, y'all. And Black history is coming up, and that's another trap for you to celebrate your enslavement. You are not Black. So when we say the word myrrh or more, it at least can take us to a word that predates a lot of this enslavement of the mind, and it can take us to mathematics, science, literature, pyramids. Because like we said, the pharaohs were Murs. The pharaohs and the Moors and Murs were the priesthood of Anubis. And they're the custodians. So when you learn about the Moors and Murs, they're the custodians of the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians, because we knew that one day we would fall asleep. That's why we created hieroglyphs. We created these monuments and stones for the day that you woke up. You will remember who you are. You will remember how great you are. You will remember that you are God, that you are dog, that you are the Most High. You will remember that they copied you, but you're trying to copy them. Their greatest copied you. That's why they created statues of themselves. Because when they came into Tamare, when they came into Mesoamerica, when they came into Asia, Antarctica, when they came all over the planet, when we let them out of the laboratories and the caves, they had never seen anything like that. And while there were some of us who said they did not deserve the knowledge, we put them to work. So some might say we enslaved them. But those would say that the Moors brought them into the knowledge in attempts to teach them how to be human, because they're not human. So we gave them certain degrees of information and then gave them a landmass in attempts to experiment to see if, as a collective, could they be civilized? Could they live amongst the gods and the other humans that we created in peace? And the experiment has proven that as a collective, when the pale-skinned Europeans come together, they do not create love. They do not create righteousness as a collective. But can an individual European raise up enough consciousness to eventually in their next life develop a soul? Yes. But can the white woman or Caucasian woman do it in this lifetime? Yes. That's why they don't want us mixing in with their women, because through sex, you can eliminate the so-called white man. The moment enough white women understand who we are and who her father is, the majority of so-called white women will not want to have sex with white men. She will want to have sex with God. That's why white women, when they have a baby, they evolve. Her seed evolves because inside of her, she now has a God, a deity, and she can birth a half God, half, and so therefore through sex, you can actually destroy the white race. And that's through knowledge itself, not through violence. And that's what he fears. So as we go into
real quick, I know we got a little time left, but it's
go ahead
crazy
and talk
because
while I get this. Go ahead.
through slavery, uh, when the white supremacy ideology and rhetoric began to become at its strongest, it actually became ineffective, because the more mixed babies that the master would push out thinking it would come out looking like him, we all know what happens when a black woman has a child with a white man. It comes out looking like us, and then the lineage at that time would become destroyed. So a lot of these names like Williams, Johnson, and all these slave masters and things like that, you're not necessarily descendants of only just that particular unfortunate situation. You're also descendants on prior to that, to the ancient part of your inner core. So white supremacy really became ineffective and actually started to lose its control during slavery as they started to push out mixed babies. No more white Aryan blood, no pure breeds.
Well, that's exactly what they fear, is genetic annihilation. That's why on TV, y'all, do you notice that where are all the movies of black men having sex with fine ass white girls? Where are the movies with a brother having sex with bomb ass white girls? Where's the movie with an ugly ass nigga having sex with beautiful white women? You don't see it. But you have movies of ugly white men having sex with beautiful black women. That's called mind control, mind manipulation. That's why when you look on the commercials of today, you see white men with black women. And that's no diss to white men who marry black women. That's actually what they're supposed to be doing. because it keeps them alive on higher realms. So those so-called white men who know magic, they know that if they have a mixed baby and they give certain information to their son or daughter, they can come back through them. And then so learn about that magic. That's why when you study the European royal family, they have so-called black people or Moors in their family, because the original European royal family of nobility are Moors. So the original slaves are your so-called Slavs, which are your white people, and we gave them the land for the experimentation, but that time is up. But clearly they're not going to give it up. And that's why we have to understand that this is just a small plot of land. There's other lands with pyramids, lush land, to where we can set up civilization. And this is why they control the maps and they control our minds through manipulation. But everybody go study Marcus Garvey and President Joe Biden. That's something very interesting why they did that. And what's the difference between Marcus Garvey and Dr. Martin Luther King? What did Marcus Garvey provide with knowledge and information in the 1920s compared to now? And what are black men doing today compared to Marcus Garvey? And here we go. Martin Luther King's quote, "I'm afraid that we're integrating into a burning house." Martin Luther King Jr. talking to Harry Belafonte said, "What's the matter, Martin? You seem very agitated." He said, "Well, I am, because I've come upon a thought that I don't know how to deal with at this moment." Harry Bonte said, "Well, what is it?" Martin Luther King said, "We fought long for integration. It looks like we're going to get it. I think we'll get the laws," he says. "But I'm afraid that I've come upon something that I don't know quite what to do with. I'm afraid that we're integrating into a burning house." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So right there, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is quoted that he is afraid that he is integrating his people into a burning house.
And it's crazy on Martin Luther King Day, man, you bring that up, because as you were talking about Marcus Garvey and all these the inaugurations and things like that, as everyone has came to a realization just on being on TikTok and just being on the internet, he was really, really right. We needed more than to be integrated into these civilizations. And like I said on the last panel, you got a whole society being us, or that are trying to integrate into a society that's not designed for you. Not to say that it cannot be done, but to say that it's really not going to be effective, and it's going to take longer for you to equal out the imbalances, rather it's just to where starting more schools of thought for black people. Like, we were better off by ourselves than we were together, unfortunately. Although it's a nice idea to say we're unified, what in that last couple of years have we really, what did you gain? Because they're your neighbors, but are you really free?
Wow. That's perfect. I agree with you 100%, brother. That's amazingly well put. Black people became assimilated to the point to where you're white, because you stayed around white people, you're better because you got their car. Basically, you want to be white. No matter what you put around it, if you worship Jesus and all that still and all that, you want to be white, and black people don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit that they've been duped. And it starts with it starts before Dr. King, but he's a prime example of a government agent, because there's no way in the world that a sensible person would go with Martin Luther King over Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad. So right here, we have Dr. Malachi Z. York. Once again, another brother who was taken down by the government with false allegations. And the moment you get certain allegations, and it's usually always sexual allegations, because they know that the moment you get that put on you, it's a wrap. And so it caused our people to not study these great men. So instead of our people studying Dr. King's false philosophy, instead of studying Dr. King's irrational way of thinking, which led our people into a burning house. We were supposed to be studying Elijah Muhammad. So this is the 1920s, y'all. The 1920s. This brother was speaking on the battle in the sky is near. And you're seeing it today. Who does the white man fear outside of you niggas? Why does he want you so stupid? If we were all created equal, why does he go up out of his way to keep his foot on you niggas' necks? It's because he knows who you are. He knows that you can fly. He knows that you can disappear. He knows that you are God. And the moment you know who you are with love, because he wants you to be mad when you wake up. He wants you to be angry. He wants you to say, fight the power, burn down the system like we did when we were teenagers. Because the Black Panthers were started by teenagers. And what was Elm Street's music saying when he was a teenager? Fuck the system, burn down the system. We went through that phase because most of the leaders didn't make it past their 30s. Even those who follow Yeshua or Jesus, he didn't make it past 33, according to your doctrine. So therefore, Malcolm, Tupac, Garvey's, Elijah's, even though he'd stayed old off the scene, we were not able to develop our leaders. So here we are again in 2025, a brother teaching you that you're God, that you're a Messiah. July, August, September, October, November. And you can come to my city where I was raised and walk around anywhere and ask about me in the community, and people will be able to talk about me, good, bad, or indifferent. Meaning that my popularity and true reality, my timeline is not based off of YouTube. Because the majority of people you see on TV are government agents. The people who control the conscious community are government agents. I know most of them niggas. They're government agents. You cannot go outside where these people were raised and ask about them because a lot of them have fake YouTube names. But if you come to Riverside, California, the Inland Empire, or anywhere I've been throughout the world, and you mention, hey man, you ever meet a brother named Jason or Elm Street? They'll be like, yeah, that brother's been talking about this since I've known him. I've known I was a Messiah. I didn't call myself God. People called me God. I didn't say that every man wasn't created equal. My coaches told me that. At Colorado State University, my coach pulled me to the side. He said, I don't ever want you to hear, I don't ever want you to say that you're a freshman. Or go. You're not traveling with us on the plane to BYU and all these other states. Don't ever say it. He said, Jason, you are not equal. You're different. He said, you are not created equal to these other men. You're different. They told me that as a kid. So yeah, not all men are created equal. Dr. King, that was a false reality.
Hey, and if we was, why would he be going out of his way to put his foot on your neck?
There you go. Because he knows that when you understand, like I said, we have to build these schools of thoughts more, because what we don't want is a Sekhmet. Sekhmet is an ancient deity, the female lioness that represents the top females can be Leos, right? She's the leader. She's the head when it comes to a certain woman, because everyone has attributes. But if a black woman is angry, when she wakes up, she becomes like, she'll burn everything down and kill everything in her path. And that's what has occurred. They've woken
That's
up.
also a big majority on why black women in today's stereotypes have such a bad stereotyping with that self, is because we look at all that power and we consider it and we put some fear behind it for whatever reason. But again, like I said earlier, that the black woman is very damaged. Out of every single organism on earth, that is the most abandoned creature that ever exists. Through all the traumas, through everything, and all of the accolades and accomplishments, I mean, bro, how would you have a lot if it weren't for the power of a black woman?
Well, for me, my teachings say that we come from the
from a
so-called
black woman. That's what I'm
that
saying.
she is first.
And that's
And
and
so
that's what I'm saying. If you look around, how would you have made it this far without the black woman? When I got out of that coma and I was talking to deities and stuff, I went on this rant when I was just talking about how important, the black woman, the black woman, the black woman, the black woman. And Jason really ain't far off, man. I'm telling you. The power of the black woman is really, really strong. But again, the society and the circumstance to which we are placed under right now, there's more to these black women than you see on Instagram and these OnlyFans and these videos and stuff. I'm telling you, not all black women are like those pop the balloon. That's just a small majority that they decide to show you on the internet to
and
reinforce that bad narrative behind the black women, but they're not all like that, man.
and
My
then
mom.
keep talking, but like Claire Huxtable. How many other examples did we get of Claire Huxtable? We have Fresh Prince, but overall, like example, the woman on TV didn't act like my mom. It was
Mine neither, bro. Hey,
my
mine
mom was
neither.
Claire Huxtable type black woman.
And on
So
top of that, not all black houses are absent of a father either. My parents been
right,
together this year for 38 years. So
right.
what I've learned as a kid, tying a tie or shaking a man's hand and stuff like that, those were adoptable traits that we've picked on. But like I was saying, back to the black woman, there's not, dude, we always put our finger and point to it's her fault, her fault. A lot of these brothers need to actually step into the role of manhood and subdue some of your own passions, because we can't build and we can't lead the black woman if you're not a good leader to yourself.
There you go. And that's why we need each other. And that's why in ancient Kemet, when you look at the hieroglyphs, you see the pharaoh with his priestess, his wife. It's because we need each other. Because together, that's what they don't want. A conscious so-called black couple. What they call black love is the most powerful love on the planet, because we have the highest form of magic, because we have the most melanin, which is condensed sunlight. So therefore, once enough of us produce that black frequency, no one else can create it. We can manifest quicker. And then that's when I say the mother wheel starts appearing, like you see in back of me, which is Tehuti land, Tiwakatan, Tehuti. And who is Tehuti? It's the priesthood. Who is a priesthood? It's the teachers, the educators. So right behind me, you see evidence of us as Aboriginal people, Moors and Mers, using our masonry throughout the planet to build similar structures no matter where we are on the planet. And this is what they fear, is because the moment we get to the pyramid top, it starts to become intergalactic. It no longer starts becoming a debate. Now it becomes fun, because then you're like, wait a second, the pyramids are not only mathematically aligned, they actually are a music note. So like when you go to Egypt, you hear like tones and frequencies. Yeah, because these are also healing devices. So this is why they don't
And
want
hold on. I'm trying to think, was it in Mexico or was it in Egypt? You clap in front of it and
It's in Mexico. It's in Mexico, and they have them in ancient Kemet in Egypt as well. They just don't know that. Yes, it's because the acoustic sounds, we were able to build that. We had that technology, but knowledge. And so once again, Tahuti, they say, created the first ancient Egyptian colony. Look it up. Thoth, Tahuti, thought. So the ancient god that you see behind me is simply you on your most high frequency. So imagine your ancestors who were able to obtain so much knowledge, they became interdimensional. They were able to travel through different timelines and dimensions, like the movie Jumper, where you could travel. This is why they don't want us to activate our pineal gland. Right? It's because you are a deity. You are a god. And the moment you have the land to practice this, they cannot do it. They have to come around you to do anything. Example, back in the day, if a white person was not around you and you put on music, they did not know how to dance. They did not know how to rap. They couldn't sing or none of that. They mimic you like monkeys. They're good mimickers. They're vampires. So they can mimic you. But if the so-called white people are left alone to themselves, they will turn on each other and kill each other. And that's what they don't want, because if everyone separates from the so-called white race, they will kill themselves off, just like they did in the past. Learn about the Germanic tribes. Learn about European history. They were always at war with each other. They didn't bathe. They didn't do any of that. That's why they need us. That's why they kidnap us. That's why they leech onto us. That's why they send certain white people to be your friend. They send certain white people to infiltrate hip hop. That's why you see the Adam 22s, the DJ Vlad, the sports centers. You have a white person in every aspect of hip hop, in any NBA, all that, because they put them strategically to spy on you. And so when we study Dr. Malachi Z. York, we talk about land, we talk about structures. Imagine when we have our pyramids that I can build and will have built, and you can stand inside of these pyramids that will be made of crystals and coppers and have tones, and now you'll be able to live longer. You'll be able to cure these cancer cells. And this is why they teach you that we live to be 300, 500 years, because you're not supposed to die in this video game. They die off because they were artificially created, and they're trying to find a way to continue themselves, because they know that the cycle of sin, which is a moon deity, which is the cycle that they were born in, is over. We are now in a sun cycle. The age of Pisces is over, and we're in Aquarius right now. The stars above dictate that, baby. So that's why we need our own land, because what happens when we have our own land? We get to building pyramids. We get to creating farms and gardens that are healthy. So therefore, with a healthy gut and a healthy stomach, you have a healthy mind. And with a healthy mind, you create innovative things that no one else can do. And when you step outside of your pearly gates, you now can trade with the rest of the world. And they will give you all of their wealth, because they do not have what you have, making you the most wealthiest people on the planet again. Because we are the gods right here. You just have to know it. You have to think it, not just believe it. And so when you visit these places, when you go to Egypt, when you go to Tamaray, when you visit Kemet, and you see the statues that look like you, it empowers you. When you touch the stone, when you touch these pyramids, it activates your DNA. And I came home and I taught my people. So everyone in the now Riverside, California, when they met me, they can always say that either Jason woke me up or that nigga's crazy. But there's not one person that I ever meet can ever say that I
It's
gave
usually it's usually the second one, Jason.
and that's fine. But no matter what, no one who I've ever met can, when it's time for me to where they cannot even be around me soon, to where they can't say they never heard the word of Jason, because that's what the government's mission has been the whole time. To when I come in the flesh again to talk to my people, they control the hip hop industry. They control any industry that they know I would gravitate to and be great at. Because if you ask anybody who's listened to my music, if you've asked anybody who's seen me run track or hurdles or do anything in life, they'll be like, damn, that nigga's godly. But always something happens. Same thing with the industry, because it was controlled. It was controlled because if the world heard my song Spaceship back in the day every single day, and then they could go to my city and they had the gangbangers saying they're gods, and people in my city saying, God, we're gods, boom. The whole entire planet no longer worships Snoop Doggy Dogg. The whole entire planet no longer wants to be a gangbanger or a thug.
Hey, Jason, so hold
Yeah.
on, slow down. So in a shorter way, because I hear what you're saying, but basically what bro's saying is each and individual one of us by choice have the ability to take on the things that he's saying. You can't replicate it because there could only be one Elms, okay? But at the same time, the vibrational things that you guys put off to the universe, whether it be from your musical talents, whether it be from your art or your historical, geographic, it really doesn't matter. What you put off into the universe, you guys, is really going to be what's remembered from you. So If you are a god, what you leave behind is always going to be what's left behind. If you're an angry person day by day and you live your whole entire life just live off of jealousy and all these other things that they've pushed in this propaganda, then you're probably not going to be remembered as the best Soviet uh, fighter for your allegiance. But at the same time, you guys always have to keep in mind that it's a day by day thing, man. We really are affected by these false narratives, school, from jobs, from you getting minimum wage, and you feel like, oh, I just have to deal with it. That's not true. It's just the system that we're built around at the moment, and it has a lot of us, including the other side. But Jason usually talks about how black people, we've been enslaved, but white people who are on the panel, because I know you listen, and you guys have been enslaved too, because there's a lot of your history and a lot of your culture to which wasn't abandoned, whether it be that it was the start of anything, but everything as far as culture wise has been too adulterated. If you go too far away from your culture and your heritage and your lineages, there's no real way to move forward. You're going to be stagnant, just be caught in this repetitious state of just rolling in cycles and in cycles and in cycles. Keep on, Jay.
What were you saying? I just sat back down.
I was saying that I said, usually, you be talking about, how black people, we're enslaved in this and this. And I said, but white people, you guys who are listening, because I know you are, you guys have abandoned your guys' spaceship. You guys abandoned your guys' heritage lineage. So you can't really make no progress as a unit if you're abandoning everything that has happened.
That's exactly true, because like you said, white is a new concept. They weren't called white till recently. They were Irish, Slovakian, Russian. And so white allows them to hide under who they are, because they lie. They're delusional as well, because they're not Americans, they're Europeans, and they're squatting illegally on Moorish land by law.
But my point was, Jason, is in the time of that, see how every party, whether one be wrong or you're counting wrongs and rights and things like that, everyone has an abandoned ship and everyone is trying to make their way back home. But to integrate, like we were talking about the Martin Luther King, it really actually did every single party a little bit worse, because those Irish you speak of never going to know where to go back to go see what their grandfather did for them. That person who was a Russian or whatever it might be, the ship was abandoned, so you really have no identification on both sides. Africa is a big continent, so to say that we came here from Africa is a kind of a fucked up thing to say. You know how many countries there are in Africa? It's freaking
racist,
huge.
JoJo. It's racist to say that black people did not walk all over the planet and sell when they admit we've been here for millions of years and that we're the first people. It's basically saying that wait, let me finish. It's saying that when Africans got out of Africa, their color changed and they became more intelligent. That's what it's basically saying.
Hold on. But what I'm getting from that is, or what I was trying to say was, to say that black people came from Africa, that is a big ass continent. There is so many places there. So if you say that, allegedly, we're just gonna say it's true. If we came from over there, we don't have no identification as to which tribe, what country. We don't have none of that. Just like white people don't have the identification to be able to say, I'm Irish, I'm this, I'm European, I'm Italian, or I'm Scandinavian. That everyone has lost their sense of identity and started enculturalizing others. White people acting like black people. Asians started acting like black people, and then white people or black people acting like white people. We're mimicking each other, and everyone, if we're gonna be honest, we're on a rat reel. And it's not like you can say one party is just fucked up, because all of us are fucked up, man. And that whole idea that white supremacy is this, you abandon where you really came from. And then black people, you don't even know where you came from your tribes. Nigga, you could have been from just down the street in freaking San Bernardino. You could have, but you never would have known that.
Definitely, because remember, guys, we're the original Aztecs and Mayans, the original people of the land they call Mexico, the Chi people, the Olmec, the Washita. So we also were on the Gulf, and we went down south. We migrated into Middle America and all these different places, because we've been here the whole time since this matrix hologram was created. We've been here. So we would create different worlds, different realities by moving to different land masses and doing different things, because no matter where you go on the matrix grid, it'll be a different reality. So let's say you played out that land for 10,000 years, you'll migrate, let's say from California to Louisiana or Arkansas, and do the same thing, set up your pyramids, town.
Hey, hold on, brother Jason, because I want to dumb that down for the viewers. Because man, you on fire today. Let me take you guys through at least 3 generations. The technology from when we had typewriters put us at it took longer to do what we do. From the time that we had computers like Microsoft and we could print, it took us to a whole new time. From the time that we just incorporated Instagram and we have artificial intelligence and autocorrect, we're in a completely new time loop, you guys. We can do crazy shit today we couldn't do 10 years ago, 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. So the time loops are always going to be changing, but you got to keep up.
Correct. And so when we look to the right, you guys, it says Pangea, Dr. Malachi Z. York, Pangea. It shows Dr. Malachi Z. York, Elijah Muhammad, and Farrakhan, because they talk about Pangea when they call the planet Asia or Asiatic. Some people, when they say Asiatic, they think they're referring to Asians, and that they're saying that Asians were the first. No. Or they're saying that they're the dark-skinned, straight-haired people. No. We're saying that dark-skinned, woolly-haired people were all over the planet when it was connected. The lands were connected as well, so we were everywhere, setting up shop, advanced civilizations everywhere. So study Pangea. The European says life didn't exist because he wasn't created yet. There were no pale-skinned, straight-haired people on the planet. That's why when we open up our history books or our story, he's not there. He's not on the walls of the
they seen, man. Well, black folk was poking him with a stick.
Right.
Say, what wrong with him?
The Indians, the Native Americans, the Asian and the new Native Americans will say that the white man was new to them. So don't ever let the white people start saying they're from Atlantis, they were here. They make up lies, because what they are doing is that once we start coming online, many of us were the Atlanteans. Many of us were from Lemuria or the island of Mu in various parts of the Matrix. That's us. But they know we're coming online. So what do? They'll say, oh, I was an Atlantean in my past life. No, their grandfather probably has books on Atlantis and all this shit that you niggas don't have, because all you niggas do is read the Bible every day, over and over. You 60 years old, 40 years old, still reading the Bible every day. You are hypnotized, and this is why you have not built your pyramids. This is why you remain in the gutter. This is why the devil still runs your community, even though that's just a word. You know what we mean.
And you know what? Hold on. And how we were saying at the beginning of the panel, man, you guys, slavery right now is a choice. We all have smartphones. You can educate yourself on ChatGPT by just asking a question, but that requires your imagination to wander into those creative places. Let them wander, ask those questions, and educate yourself. Because the more you stay asleep, the more you're going to be victimized when that time comes, and you're going to say, well, why don't I have my food? Why don't I have my garden? And black folks are going to continue to say, why don't we have no community? Why don't we have no representation? You guys, it starts with yourselves. And if you fix yourselves, when you get together with other black folks, you can have a civilized conversation, whether you agree or disagree, like me and Jason. But y'all got to do some personal work and actually be ready to receive these downloads as far as to the belief that there is more to you than just the idea you just come from slaves. You guys have an opportunity to build anything you want. And I'm sure you want to see more than just secular music and Cardi B's and Doja Cats. That is the representation of what you can be. You're more than that.
Exactly. So before we flip the page, you see Dr. Malachi Z. York in the middle, and you see the cobra. Now, they'll demonize the cobra, but the cobra represented medicine to us. And so the cobra also represented the pineal gland. So when the pineal gland activates, it looks like a cobra flickering, and that's your antenna. So when you're activated in the right state of mind, you're able to grab information for free outside of the ethers. So you see how the European has to create chat GPT and basically cheat to get information instead of living under the sun like we did for millions of years, obtaining it, recording it, acting it out, building. He wants to cheat again. He cannot stand under the sun. So when you learn about when they say Europeans and the slaves in Egypt, you have to look at it as we said, okay, you want to be an Egyptian? You want to rock with Jason? You want to rock with me, homie? Just like a gang, they put you on. So when you come on my land, nigga, I'm gonna have you doing shit. What the fuck do you think this is? So a lot of people look at slavery in ancient Kemet. They might see war captives. That's different. War captives is different, and especially when you learn about the war games that took place purposely, and you were here for fun to do that, not how they do it. But when it comes to slavery of the Europeans and certain people who came into Kemet, those were students. So basically, we had them cutting the bricks. We had them doing stuff under the sun. And then you learn about the whipping and all that. How do you expect to walk amongst the gods if you can't even walk and talk? So imagine taking a being out of the cave that walking and talking. We had to shave the hair off of them. We had to give them certain minerals and things to stand under the sun, certain sun lotions to stand under the sun, so they could learn certain geometry, so they could learn certain words other than you know, we taught them the alphabet, all those things, because we were introducing them into reality. Other than that, if the European is left to his demise or left to alone, he reverts back to his nature and they will stop shaving. If you ask all the homies in the pen, they say the dirtiest people are the white boys because
Hey,
they
hold
don't
on, hold on, hold on. So as he
listen.
talks about
Go
as
ahead.
it talks about the slave man and the slave man and the cat and the caveman and stuff like that, mind you guys, this was the same civilization that turned against over time and went back and started whipping your guys' ass after you taught him how to actually say catch that nigga. Could you imagine that? We teach you how to say catch. You made the word nigga, and then you put us behind that because you understood if they can teach us to do this, we're outnumbered. We were more civilized. We had more things to them. So the only solution was to demonize, mark them down, and separate them.
Yes. Um,
Keep going. My bad.
so what was your threw off the energy? So what was your point with that?
Oh, my point on that was for that completely time, man. You guys, it's been a complete narrative as far as the white narrative to continuously bastardize the things that you guys are looking at from your ancient chemists, from your guys' societies, from the things that you are able to build within a collective. It's just been eons of the same troubles that we've been going through. So as it comes like to your current day and stuff like that, you may sit there and wonder, okay, well, if we don't have the finances to build pyramids, if we don't have to do that, you guys, like Miss Lana, she's not here right now, unfortunately, but she continues to say, you guys have to change your live it. Change your live it and change your mind. Change the way you live and change the things that comes out of your mouth. It really starts with the thoughts that you believe. Miss Jason, he ain't
Right
far off
here.
from. You said what's up?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, so all
So
I'm saying to you guys is, with everything that was going on with, just the whole hour we were talking in a short summary, you guys got to come to understand that there's a lot of things that we can all talk about, but few things will actually come to agree upon. So we have to educate ourselves so we can really actually know what's what for ourselves and reach out to them places rather than just going on Instagram. You don't have to be like them.
so right here, I'm showing you a statue of Anubis. So when you guys study Anubis, you'll learn that the hairless dog comes from America. The hairless black dog comes from America. So it's a connection from Tehuacán to Egypt once again, proving that we are those people that we were already trading long before the European. So like Jojo said, we can no longer believe what they teach us. That's why do you think they don't care that there's Snoop Dogg and Rick Ross? But the moment you say you're God, oh no, you're not a God, you're not a God. The moment you start saying you're the Mayans, you're the Aztecs, that you built pyramids, no. The moment you say that you're the original Egyptian, no. Because they know there's power in that. They want you to love Snoop Dogg and Rick Ross and all these basically black devils in our community. And it's time to let them go. Like, man, Snoop showed his true colors to y'all. And anyone connected to him, he's been part of the agenda. So that's what the next slide is as we end. You've been bamboozled, black man. You're not black, you are more, you're a mer, aboriginal, meaning prehistoric. That's what the European be talking about, prehistoric times. He was not around during prehistoric times. How is something called prehistory? How can you predate history? It's because it predates his story, because he wasn't around. So they use coons like Snoop Doggy Dogg. And what was Snoopy? Little soft ass fucking clown, little Charlie Brown bullshit. Wasn't Heathcliff, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't the Atomic Dog, even though his first video he was morphing into Anubis. Remember that? They had Snoop Dogg morphing into the dog father, and his second album was called that, and he let our people down, straight up. Coon. And so Snoop Dogg, he bamboozled us. He's an agent. And so you see Rick Ross, government agent. Soldier Boy, he started the YouTube trend to where being a fucking cornball became cool. Do the Soldier Boy, Superman, oh, do the song Superman. Soldier
I
Boy.
still know that dance too.
And it was a tone. And they knew how to Mary had a little lamb. Little lamb, little lamb. They teach you that the labels and stuff like that too, to where they'll tell you what tone, what frequency, or what nursery rhyme to build your song off of, or beat, and you just do that, and they'll pump it in the audience who listens to it on the radio remember it forever. And then Nelly, Tip Drill, they wanted to ban that song. There was something called BT Midnight Love, or it was something else, not Midnight Love, BT Uncut. And they would show the ratchetest videos. And it was programming, y'all, to accept this bullshit. Now it's cool to be a gangbanger. The gangbangers are the cool guys in our community. We're going live right now. You can tune in. So the gangbangers are the cool guys, bro. How did that happen to where everything you see on YouTube, Instagram, the top dudes for our generation are the gangbangers? You got Adam 22, which is watch Adam 22, the movie. It's a movie about cops, white cops. He's an agent, and I think it's like, man. So there you go, pro-Trump sellouts and jigaboo niggas, and you follow them. Just like your pastors, your preachers, your favorite celebrities are leading you the wrong way. The gods walk amongst you and they're your local celebrities. But if you are scrolling through YouTube and TikTok and you hear this person say something conscious and you got 10 people saying different things, who is the real teacher? Who is the real source of information that the gods are sending the information to? There's only one Jason. Learn about all this stuff that I created, that other artists and stuff stole that I was around, or other people steal and do. It's because there's only a small select few of us who can handle this type of information and deliver it to the people in a certain fashion and live it out, because it's not fun always being popular. That's how you know the fake conscious leaders. They're the ones trying to pump on Revolt TV and all this stuff. It's because they're the sellouts. Because when you live this, you're going to get called crazy, dog. You're going to have people really try to hurt you, poison you, put smut on your name. You're going to lose family members, friends, hard to get married, hard that, all that, bro. That's real what comes with this. So people don't want to deal with that. So they can't advance because the ancient.
Hold on, Jason.
Let me finish with this last part. So this is why in school they taught you and laughed at you when your teacher said that the ancient Egyptians were fascinated with death. It's because we realize that you cannot die and that this life you're preparing for your next life. That's what this life is. So if they bamboozle you to worry about things that are meaningless, jobs that pay you that are meaningless, playing basketball games and watching games that are meaningless, your soul doesn't advance. So if you happen to die here by accident, you don't graduate and you can't go to the next realm.
I was gonna say, and I 100% agree. I was gonna say, isn't it freaking crazy how you say all that comes with just being common sensingly aware that gangbanging is not the freaking motion? Isn't that weird?
Because pussy, because that's why I was talking about earlier, the Jesus thing. Just like brothers, you couldn't, if you were a nerd because of Steve Urkel, girls wouldn't fuck on you. So there are a lot of dudes I know became thugs. They didn't need to be no thugs. Most of the dudes I know who became gangbangers didn't have to be a gangbanger. It was because of rap music. It was because of hip hop. It was because of a racist teacher making them not want to learn in school, or not having a mom who understood that he was a God, and she's telling this nigga to believe in Jesus. So this is why you got to study the black pharaohs, y'all. They demonize ancient Egypt because they know that's you. They know the moment you start waking up, you can go there mentally and physically, and you can see the statues and activate yourself and go to your selective city and raise up your people from the dead. Because your people are blind, it's knowledge that wakes people up from the dead, not just physically. We could talk about Santeria and voodoo and all that, but it's the knowledge that wakes people up from the dead. So when you start hearing my voice, when you start hearing this light that I bring from the darkness, because I have to live in the dark, I have to walk on the dark side, because most people aren't Scorpios. They can't handle living this shit, sacrificing the top jobs for this, to work in the dark so I can be the light bearer, while others just live in the light of the illusion, blinded by the light of someone else's light, because they're afraid of the dark, and the dark side is the truth. So the black pharaoh, the dark pharaoh, the triple black, the Osiris, the Amun, the Amun Ra, the Septeper Ra, the Mary Su, the Mary Amen, the King Tut Akhenamen, the Tiwakatan, the Tehuti. We say these names to rise and raise our ancestors. Just like you say Tupac, we need to start saying Amun Ra, Septepen Ra, Pharaoh Akhenaten, Ramses, Amenhotep. And this is how we raise the consciousness, and this is how they come to you. But when you say Jesus, Yeshua, those aren't ancient. Those are slave gods. But when we start learning that air, fire, wind are languages, we have to learn our tones again. Like I studied with the Zulus, the Zulu Songomas. I studied in the pyramids of Kemet. I was in the underground tunnels of the pyramids in different temples that you do not have access to as a normal citizen. I graduated from these schools of thought and traveled physically, while most people think they got it off of YouTube, saying they're conscious but they believe in God, thinking they're conscious but they believe in Jesus, afraid to say they don't believe in God. So yes, you believe in God, but I know God. You feel me? So here, as we ended, coming close, Eazy-E was poisoned in order for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg to be popular, in order for the gay homosexual rap agenda to go down in secret. They needed sellout Negroes. So they had to murder Eazy-E, who had eventually became conscious, because all the real gangbangers that I know, when they get around me, they have an opportunity. Everywhere I went in my tour van, the most treacherous hoods in LA, all the OGs, anywhere I went, they were like, man, protect this young guy. Most dudes who I know from the pen, you get two of them. And not the ones who be secret, you know what, but the Christian ones who be selling out, or you get the brothers who come out as God, knowing Islam, and they change their lives. And it's not to knock the Christian ones, but the brothers who come out Christian and with the money, those are usually your FBI informants, because they're still pumping Jesus worship in the community, and the government gives them money to portray that worshiping Jesus gets you money, because black people, they would want to be white. Because stunning should be the most intelligent. The most popular person should be the most intelligent person in your community that has solutions to break free from the bondage of your enslavers. So Easy E was poisoned with AIDS so Snoop Dogg could live. So Dr. Dre could be what he is today. And who does Dr. Dre roll with? Jimmy Iovine. Who is Jimmy Iovine? He's Satan. He's the devil. He's Pentar. He's a reptilian. He's an extraterrestrial being with a human suit on, manipulating you niggas. And then we see Snoop Dogg praises Donald Trump. The Snoop Dogg who talked about killing, murder, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks, gin and juice, all these negative bad things. And I know people say, but he opened a football league. That doesn't circumvent for influencing brothers to gangbang and still throwing up the gang signs when you're at the Olympics. He's protected. Snoop Dogg is protected by higher powers and entities. How is it that Tupac got murdered and the biggest crip of all time never got murdered? How did Nipsey and all these gangbangers get murdered, but the biggest gangbanger of all time to the public never got shot? Maybe the real Snoop Dogg got murdered and that's an imposter. Maybe the Snoop Dogg that we're seeing is a lookalike and the real Snoop Dogg was murdered, because I can't fathom a grown man dressing like that. How does a grown ass man, millionaire, dress like that? Unless he's under contract. So go watch the music video, Murder Was the Case Again, where Snoop Dogg says he sold his soul to the devil for fame and fortune to a pale-skinned reptilian white man. And then YG, Nipsey Hussle, gangbangers who have influence. Much love to these brothers, but they're gangbangers. How did Nipsey Hussle? He's a gangbanger. And yet they got praised. Oh, he's smart. But what about the brothers from that section that didn't gangbang? What about them? Oh, you still got to use a crip, because no matter what, it still pumps the narrative to black kids that I could be like Nipsey Hussle. He was a crip. He was a gangbanger. YG, so to have the opposite of blood. Instead of growth and development, he's around here, much love to these brothers, but we have to call them out. And then they have minions to where if you talk bad about these brothers will try to kill you. Those are devils. The Bloods and Crips are devils, y'all. They're demons in our community. They're government created gangs that are black terrorists. And it was the Bloods and Crips who destroyed the black community. They were paid to destroy the black community, to gangbang, to sell dope. You got the game from Compton, pumped up the blood stuff. So then the Bloods became big in New York. All of a sudden, the Bloods became big in the streets again, a revival of gangbanging, all because of who? Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, all devils. Hova, who is Hova? Jehovah. Jehovah is the God of the Bible, the bloodthirsty, jealous God of confusion. That's Jay-Z, Sean Carter. He's the God of confusion. Jigga Man, he's a devil. Marion Suge Knight, Suge, homo thug, who names himself Suge, and they said he really wasn't a gangbanger. He played football for UNLV, government agent. Snoop Dogg, real name Calvin Brodus, not from California, originally from Kansas or Missouri, government agent, paid to promote being a Crip and gangbanger, gin and juice and marijuana smoke and indulgence. Even though we do that naturally, you know what time it is. You have to do that constructively. Kanye West promoting Donald Trump. They killed him, they said, in a car accident. Is it true? We don't know. Busta Rhymes, once again, homo thugs. So here we are. The police department and FBI control hip-hop intelligence, the NYPD, FBI, 50 Cent, government agent, hip-hop police, and Eminem, because they plan to make Eminem above 50 Cent and Tupac, just like they did Elvis Presley. And what did black people do? If you talk bad about Eminem, they'll come for you, because subliminally and subconsciously, black people worship white people. They want to be white. That's why you see black men with a fucking white Jesus around their fucking neck. You see black dudes with tattoos of white angels, white Jesus on their body. How many white boys do you see with black men tatted on their body? How many white boys do you see with Malcolm X tatted on their body? And so Tupac Shakur war with the FBI, and they had to get rid of Tupac. Who is linked to that? Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Interscope, Suge Knight, and the government. Puff Daddy, the same people who control black people today, and Jay-Z. The same people who took out Tupac, the same enemies of Eazy-E, the same enemies of Tupac Shakur run the music industry for black people. You're black devils. Listen to Eazy-E. He told you that Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg were not real gangbangers. Because why? Real gangbangers become conscious and don't want to go to jail until people don't do it. But they promote it. They promote you to be a killer. They promote you to be gangbangers. And Dr. Dre provides the tones and right frequencies. And they're grown men talking about sex, satanic, all the time. Missionary, all the time. Sex, sex, sex. Low vibration, demons, black devils. So right there. So what did they do? They had to sacrifice. They needed a blood sacrifice. They needed a deity for hip hop, which was Tupac and Biggie Smalls. So they used them for blood sacrifice. And to this day, they make money off of their death in the image of God, of that particular industry. Once again, hip hop is infiltrated. It's satanic. BMF. They celebrate Big Meech, a black devil. How did a black devil that was known for distributing cocaine throughout the entire Americas get released when you got brothers still in prison for selling marijuana? Al Sharpton, Cardi B, Oprah, Roland, D.L. Hughley, Beyonce, all these people Malcolm X talked about. These are your sellouts. Your celebrities are your sellouts, and you love them as a people. Black people are addicted to Eurocentric idealism and culture. Quote, Dr. Layla Africa. Dr. Layla Africa, learn about him more than Dr. Sebi. So when you hear people say, Dr. Sebi, ask them who Dr. Layla Africa is. If they don't know who Dr. Layla Africa is, they're just a copycat, because it's so easy to say Dr. Sebi. It's so easy to say CMOS because of YouTube and TikTok, people think they know everything. They don't go through the hell. They don't go through the school of thought. They don't travel to Africa and Egypt and all these places to get the information. They get it off of YouTube because they're fake scholars. And so once again, the image of white Jesus has destroyed the psyche of our people. So Elijah Muhammad said, I teach not the coming of God, but the presence of God in person. So what is more powerful, a black man or a black boy worshiping Jesus, or a black boy being raised that he is God and that his friend is God and that his brother is God? What is the outcome when a black man is raised to believe that his brother is God and that he is God and that his mother is the creator of God? She is the creator of all. What does that create? Well, we know what it creates. We can travel the world and see it. It's a curriculum. It's an education curriculum that was distributed worldwide through advanced technology, and it's stored in our DNA. And how did they silence us? The vaccines, the education system, your rappers, the Jews, the pale-skinned Europeans who use your knowledge and information against you to keep you ignorant to who you are. So I am Jason E. Williams and JoJo. This is the Matrix University. As we say, what is the Matrix? And we're going to leave you guys with some virtual reality solutions. You can find us at thematrixuniversity.com, where we have our own virtual reality university by law. The Matrix University is a certified nonprofit 501c3 tax exempt Education and Innovation University. I will be a doctor of education by law in 1 more year, and by law, I have my master's degree in education. So this is high level information coming from a qualified source. So as we leave you, I'm gonna leave you with a few videos, and this is me and Kimmy.
Got you, son. Yo, what's up? It's Jason, the God MC, better known as Elm Street. We out here in Africa, Plano, Egypt, about to open the stargates. You already know everything is atoms, photons, neurons, electrons. So we're gonna turn around right here, and we're gonna show you the Great Pyramid. That's the Great Pyramid. I'm the Great Pyramid. You're the Great Pyramid. Yeah, we're living it up. Shout out to Toronto, US, Africa, Brazil. Jane Street finest, man. Jane Street County Collection, Toronto. Out here, bagging against the system. Hey, need that. Tough. You know?
So right there, I want to show you guys how I got down in the hurdles. This is San Diego State. I won the San Diego State Invitational. I'm not going to say the year, but no, I believe it was 2002. San Diego State Invitational. I won the meet MVP. So I literally was one of the top runners in the world, but I was arrested by the government because I was kicking this knowledge in college. I had an album out. I had a real album out, and I was doing shows at the House of Blues. I was rocking. I had a real movement, and the government came for me. So this is me in college, San Diego State University, first place against the top runners from UCLA, University of Michigan, USC, and all that.
San Diego State. Get a good start, baby. Let's go, Jason. Catch him now.
I won that race. I don't know why it just cut off. But anyways, that was first place. So yeah, just showing you guys an example of me. And this is an example and a preview of what we're able to do at the Matrix University. So in the future, it's going to be virtual reality. That's where it's going to be. So we want to create programs. We want to create programs to where our people are not left behind when it comes to virtual reality. So with the Matrix University, not only do we have a virtual reality campus, it's K through 12, to where actually students can log in when they become an organization member, and a student and family members, any age, and it has K through 12 modules of math, science, literature, over 100 destinations. You can use this every day as a tool for education, and we're developing the community. JoJo is going to be an assistant professor and a teacher at the Matrix University, to where we have counseling for Black men, mental health classes, health and wellness. So just like Facebook and just how they ended TikTok, come to the Matrix University, y'all. Why spend your time on TikTok when you can be part of a real platform and learn and build wealth with us? So that's what I'm doing at the Matrix University. So here's also a preview of us being able to build meta worlds for you. So the Matrix University now has the technology to build metaverses, meta worlds. So I'm going to show you the virtual reality campus and university, but this is a separate entity of the meta world that's coming that we have developed. So it's about less than 50% done, 1/3. So this taking you step by step on what we're developing. So when students and families and people need their virtual reality campuses or virtual reality businesses done, we can provide that at cost. So this is just previews of the worlds being developed.
That shit pretty dope. I ain't gonna lie.
So right there is a perfect example of a meta world that we're developing. That's just in development, y'all. That is not done. It's not even 50% done yet. So we're building that Olmec, Mesoamerica, ancient Egyptian, blending cultures and virtual reality to teach at a high level, and we're developing communities there. So just like there, you see Grand Theft Auto, we're able to build video games. So that's my video game that's being developed, the Matrix University. So there, it's my world. I love pyramids, ancient cultures, and that's the future. Our future is building our own advanced cities, our own systems outside of this matrix that they have for us. And those who want to remain in that matrix, good luck. You know, it is what it is, but we're providing freedom right now. The platform is a solution. I've been putting in the real work to lead myself and to lead others to freedom who want to help. You know, you have to work out mentally, physically, and spiritually. You can't come around us wanting a handout. Just like anything in life, to make a team, the track team, you have to work out. In order to make the hurdle squad, you not only have to work out and run like everyone else, you have to develop techniques. You have to learn your trail leg. You have to do extraordinary things than someone just running, not just, but running around the track at a high level, out above high school level. So I put in that real work. I was captain of my university team, former record holder at my university, literally All-American. So I put in real work in life, not just physically and spiritually, but also in the books too. Also outside, I stepped off the porch to deliver the truth to my people in real time. So right here is an example of me in South, what you call today South Africa, on the land in the hut of what you know as Shaka Zulu.
This is the ancestors' hut right here. We're in a Zulu village in KwaZulu.
Hey,
Go
hey,
inside,
bro, I gotta
pay
get out of here,
homage.
man. Thank you
This
for
is where
having
they
me.
talk to the ancestors and gods. Firsthand. This is where Shaka was. Right here. Shaka Zulu was in this hut, this very hut. Once again, your boy Jason Elm Street Williams in the hut of Shaka Zulu.
So right there, y'all, you see true evidence of me backpacking South Africa, studying with the Songomas, studying with the Zulu Nation, in looks for Credo Mutwa. That's what I was really looking for. So I want y'all to study Credo Mutwa of the Zulu Nation. So this is coming from a real source. A lot of brothers and sisters on YouTube come out with videos and quick videos, but they haven't backpacked. They haven't been to these locations to get the real DNA, to touch these real animals. I really have touched the hippopotamus. I really studied at the Kruger National Park. I really studied at the University of Pretoria in Africa. I really touched the rhinoceros. I really saw a rhinoceros get captured in the wild. I really stayed in tents in the wild in the African bush. So when I speak to you, that's coming from a real source. So I always want you guys to understand that. So as we end it, we'll end it with the VR. As you know, we love the outer space. So this is some of the outer space modules we have at the Matrix University Virtual Reality Campus. So once again, just like TikTok ended, come over to the Matrix University. We are developing a community of high profile level thinkers of thought and action. The time is now. The present is here. The whole wide world is filled with cheer. Jason, I am here. Knowledge is power when activated correctly. So today we record this on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday. Biden exonerated Marcus Garvey, and it's the day of the inauguration of Donald Trump 2025, and we're here kicking knowledge so you do not get lost in the time loop again. Once again, the Matrix University is building a community with our organization. Just like any other university, you apply, people pay fees. The goal is to have grants. So if you know how to get grants awarded, sponsors, donations, so we don't have to charge our organization members to use the technology that we have. So if you'd like demos of the Matrix University Virtual Reality Campus, contact me, because we also can develop virtual reality worlds. You can customize your own campus with your own curriculum. We have artificial intelligent AI professors and teachers. So basically, just like any campus, they develop students, whether it starts with 1 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. It's the same thing we're doing now. Just like charter schools, private schools, we're a nonprofit 501c3 tax exempt organization and an LLC. So the goal is to get funding so we can have our own land, to have our own brick and mortar, to purchase the technology and necessary equipment to have our own industry so we can trade with other nations to build up our wealth for ourselves, for our families, for our nations, for the world in outer space and under the ocean and beyond. I'm Jason Elm Street Williams, master of the universe. and you are tuned into What is the Matrix TV, sponsored by the Matrix University. Welcome to the Matrix University Virtual Reality Campus. We are currently at the International Space Station, covering planet Earth. This is one of our modules here, where families, organizations, students, homeschool, K through 12, can come experience the gamification of education. So let's go down to the space station and let's see what the Matrix University has to offer at the International Space Station. Whoa! And here we are. So let's slow it down. So you see the planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter. Which one should we grab? Let's grab Venus. See. Whoa, here we come for the basketball dunk on the International Space Station. No! So right there, we could talk about the planets in orbit. As you see, Mercury, and right here is a perfect example of the sun. It's beautiful planets around the sun. You can even pick up in real time planets and place them, create a whole new rotation. Let's pick up this beautiful fella. So let's say we wanted to create a spawnable right here on the International Space Station. We would simply, so right there, y'all, just a few examples.
That's right, y'all. April 9th, the next Urban Squad meets y'all. Make sure you click the link in the bio. Cause if I don't, theurbansquadmeet.com, y'all.
Let's go. What you know about me? What you know about me? What you know about me?
These down pros over here going off, y'all.
My lip gloss be popping. I'm standing in my locker, and all the boys keep stopping. What you
Welcome to the world-famous King Tut Museum. Be sure to respect the ancient relics. The ancient Egyptians were a magical people who built numerous beautiful, magnificent structures, like the world-famous pyramids and temples. No running inside. Scientists till this very day still do not know how the Egyptians built the pyramids.
I wonder, did aliens ever visit ancient Egypt?
Wow, look at that giant Egyptian statue. It looks just like you, Jason.
Thanks, Toby. You're a super cool friend. Imagine what the world would look like if I was the pharaoh.
Jason, you are daydreaming. Wake up.
Sorry, history got away from me.
Evidence that our ancestors left for the day that when we woke up, we can have proof. There's no argument anymore. It's no longer hearsay. So once again, nearly 40 tons. It means tons. Yet they say that they
Got you, son. Yo, what's up? It's Jason, the God MC, better known as Elm Street. We out here in Africa, Plano, Egypt, about to open the stargates. You already know everything is atoms, photons, neurons, electrons. So we're gonna turn around right here, and we're gonna show you the Great Pyramid. That's the Great Pyramid. I'm the Great Pyramid. You're the Great Pyramid. We're living it up. Shout out to Toronto, US, Africa, Brazil. Jane Street finest, man. Jane Street Kindness Collection, Toronto. Out here, banging against the system. Hey, see that? Bah! You know?